Chapter 632. Okay. She has a lot of wood magic in her body now. She'll recover in a few days. Reynolds seemed to have thought of something. Hey, were you trying to use Natalia's matter to avoid running? Most of the water in the forest had been thrown to other areas by Reynolds, perhaps because of the change in the atmosphere a few days ago. The sunlight was very comfortable. Every strand of golden light shone into the room through the thin special window. Everywhere was warm, and the people in the room were full of comfort. Ah! Natalia opened her tightly closed eyes, but the comfortable feeling brought by the sunlight was immediately interrupted by the pain in her abdomen. Reynolds, that bastard, he hurt me so much. Natalia threw a tantrum that was unique to her. That idiot is really powerful. Maybe with him, I can find the truth about Hope Village. At this moment, Natalia heard a knock on the door. Knock! 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 It's me, Reynolds. A familiar voice came from outside the door. That's strange. Why is he here? Natalia hesitated for a moment. Could it be that she didn't hit me hard enough yesterday, so she's here to finish me off? At this thought, Natalia was speechless. She forgot to change into her pajamas and ran to open the door. Coming. Natalia opened the door. Wait, did I open the door the wrong way? I think I saw something strange. Just as Reynolds was about to enter, Natalia suddenly closed the door with lightning speed. She had just seen Reynolds standing outside in a maid's outfit, with long white rabbit ears on his head. The black and white outfit matched his petite figure very well, and the black lace stockings on his legs made him look so charming. My nose! What the hell? After closing the door, Natalia looked outside through the peephole. Reynolds was holding a medium-sized iron plate in his hand, and there were some exquisite dishes on the plate. There were salads, meat dishes, and the almighty artifact, hot water, etc., so cute. For a moment, Natalia forgot that Reynolds had punched her. Knock. 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 There were 3 more knocks on the door. Natalia, it's me. Why did you close the door again? I hit my nose. Why are you dressed like this? Reynolds's short white hair was a highlight, and it was a clear contrast with most of the black clothes. His long and curved eyelashes, and his crystal blue pupils exuded a touch of innocence. This time, Reynolds even put on the black stockings given by Avina, which made Natalia blush like a monkey's butt. Steam seemed to be rising from Natalia's head. What should I do? He's so cute, I want to hug him. Meanwhile, on the other side of the room, Reynolds. Avina, just you wait. In fact, ever since Reynolds punched Natalia last night, he had been feeling uneasy. Although he had controlled his strength, he still felt sorry for Natalia. Therefore, Avina stepped forward and gave Reynolds a very loyal suggestion. Reynolds, why don't you put on a maid's outfit and apologize to her? While you're at it, prepare some of Natalia's favorite food, and it'll be settled. Hey, you just want to see me in a maid's outfit, and I even have a maid's outfit. Before Reynolds could finish, Avina took out a maid's outfit from the wardrobe and placed it in front of Reynolds. What do you want to say? Nothing. Hey, you've only been awake for a few days. Where did you get these things? Humph, I've long expected this day to come, so I've prepared in advance. Back to the present. Why are you dressed like this? Of course I'm here to apologize to you. I hit you a little too hard last night. Let me in. It's embarrassing to be outside. Don't let Lilith see you again. Ahem, okay. Natalia opened the door, and then Reynolds ran in like a fish seeing water. Sob good. Avina and Lilith didn't see me. At this moment. Lilith, did you get everything? Yes. Everything is done. The 360-degree one without any blind spot. Okay, quickly make a few hundred copies and save them. Look, I made these myself. The salad I just pulled from the ground, the meat skewers made from the spider carcasses, and the water I boiled with fire. Try it. Ugh, although Natalia didn't know how to remove magic, She could clearly see that there was a steady stream of black bubbles coming out of the food. Hey, isn't it just boiling water? How did you make it into something so deadly? You're not here to apologize at all. You're killing people to silence them. Why aren't you eating? Is it not good? Reynolds asked with concern when he saw that Natalia didn't eat immediately after seeing the food. I'm not that hungry yet. It's okay, I'll eat later. Oh no, I was beaten silly last night. Oh okay. I'll put it here first. Especially the hot water, remember to drink it while it's hot. Reynolds put the iron plate on the table. Oh right. Look. Reynolds put his hand into the black plate and took out a sword that glowed faintly. The body of the sword was silver-white, and there were some indecipherable runes engraved on it. There were 2 golden patterns on both sides of the sword that went all the way to the blade. The hilt was also golden, as if it was a derivative of the patterns. It looked very grand. Here, for you. Reynolds handed the sword to Natalia. Wow! Natalia hurriedly took the sword. The shape, the aura, the sharpness, Natalia stroked the sword back and forth, unable to hide the smile on her face. It seems that Natalia likes it a lot. This sword is called the 6 Wings. It's very powerful. Take some time to study it yourself. Okay. Natalia waved the hexapod wings in the room. Every time she waved the sword, there would be an ear-piercing sound of air being torn apart. Natalia tried to inject some mana into the sword. Suddenly, the hexapod wings turned from silver to dark green, exuding a dense vitality of wood magic particles. Wow. Chapter 633. Since you like it so much, I'll forget about the punch I gave you last night. Okay. Natalia replied casually. Obviously, her mind was not here at the moment. Then I'll take my leave first. Go! Remember to finish your meal. I know. Reynolds was actually very happy to see that Natalia liked the sword he gave her so much. However, he did feel a little sad that she ignored him. Reynolds thought to himself as he returned to his room. Just now, the 6 wings turned green, which means that the wood element magic particles in Tizia's body should be very important. The wood element magic particles have the effect of recovery. She's indeed a saint, Reynolds complained. He changed into the rabbit pajamas and threw himself on the bed. His movements were smooth and he could not be more skilled. I wonder how Avina is doing now. Gulp. 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 Now, Avina's carriage had already driven for a long distance. The carriage had just driven through a very bumpy dirt road, and Avina's bones were about to fall apart. In order to save time, Reynolds spent a lot of effort to find the nearest path to their destination. After all, the carriage he hired was charged according to the distance. I wonder how Tizia is doing now. Avina put her right hand on the window of the carriage, and then clenched her fist and gently pressed it against the right side of her face. They were now in a small mountain area. The scenery outside the window was still very beautiful. There were birds, flowers, apes, and a quiet forest. Of course, it would be better if the left side of the road was not a cliff. The fresh breeze made Avina's mood much more relaxed. Previously, she had been cooped up in her room studying creation research, and she did not have much time to rest. Now, she could take advantage of this time to relax. She did not know why, but recently, whenever she closed her eyes, the image of Reynolds would appear in her mind. There were images of him carefully teaching her knowledge, and also images of him using high-intensity magic to snatch food from Tizia. In short, she had been thinking about him. At this moment, the blue crystal hanging on Avina's neck vibrated slightly and glowed. The crystal was the size of a palm and was actually very heavy. However, Avina treated it as a family heirloom and rubbed it all day long. Now, Reynolds sent her a message. Avina's face lit up. She immediately took off the crystal and placed it on a small table in front of her. The crystal shook for a short while, and then a dazzling light shot toward the ceiling. A small figure of Reynolds was projected in front of Avina. Ahem. AI Wayna cleared her throat and revealed a very bright smile. Teacher, what's wrong? What? Can't I contact you? Reynolds purposely pretended to be angry and puffed up his cheek. AI Wayna couldn't hold back her laughter for a moment and directly spat it out. Teacher, what's that on the bed behind you? What's that? Reynolds turned around and realized that the maid outfit he had just changed out of was still on his bed. He had forgotten to return it to Gio. No, nothing. As he spoke, Reynolds hurriedly kept it. Bye, I don't know why you keep putting strange things in my room recently. Good things don't happen to me. Bad things always happen to me. Abai flipped over on the bed and continued to sleep. That's strange. Why are there other people's magic waves nearby? Teacher, what do you mean? Reynolds's expression changed. You might have encountered magic bandits. Magic bandits, as the name suggested, were different from ordinary bandits. They usually had a strict system, and every member of them had come into contact with magic at some point or another. They're coming. As soon as Reynolds finished speaking, a fireball flew towards the carriage from the top of the mountain. The fireball was not very accurate and did not hit the carriage. At the top of the mountain, a few bandits wearing men's underwear over their heads appeared. There were only 3 of them. The one standing in the middle was a relatively strong man. His height was closer to the standard of a normal person. He should be the leader of the 3. The one standing on the left was a short and fat man. At first glance, he looked like the type that was often bullied. The one on the right was a tall and thin man like a bean sprout. The classic trio of clowns has qualified. Reynolds ridiculed through the crystal. Obviously, in Reynolds's heart, these 3 people had already drifted away from the words magic bandit. The 3 of them jumped down from the top of the mountain. Perfect. The 3 of them had different reactions. The one in the middle landed perfectly. The tall one seemed to have sprained his ankle. As for the fat one, he had a perfect diving posture. The man in the lead shouted, "If you want to pass through here, stay, leave your toll." The fat one said, "My brother is right." AI Wayna couldn't help but feel speechless when she saw how silly the 3 of them were. If Teacher Reynolds were to do this, it would be hilarious. That was what Tizia thought. Avina, although the 3 of them know a little magic, their proficiency level is not high. You can use them to practice and prepare for the sacred sword dance. Avina seemed to understand what Reynolds was referring to. AI Wayna simply scanned the 3 of them. Although their faces were covered and she couldn't get any useful information, she could roughly tell the positions each of them was good at just by looking at their body shape. The coachman was also a little nervous at this moment. He was already prepared to escape at any time. Avina got down from the carriage and said a few simple words to calm the coachman down. She asked him to wait for a while and even stuffed a small silver coin into his hand. The coachman's eyes immediately shone like a dog seeing a bone. Avina walked to the front of the 3 masked bandits not far away. "Come. I am 3000 Avina from Raimengshu Magic Academy. Nice to meet you. Brother, look at this chick. She is quite pretty. She must be very rich." "That's right. Brother, let me deal with this little girl. I alone am enough." The tall and thin man stepped forward and stood in front of the 3 of them. Chapter 634. Reynolds found a large pile of popcorn and hugged it in front of his chest. He sat cross-legged on the bed in the room, watching Avina's duel through the crystal. As for Avina, Reynolds was still very confident. The skinny man pulled out 2 short daggers from the scabbard behind his buttock. Then, for some unknown reason, he muttered a long string of incantations, and the 2 short daggers gradually shone with a purple light. "I'm coming." The thin man crouched down and rushed toward Avina with 2 knives in his hand. In order to confuse Avina's vision, the skinny man kept changing his route left and right, but he still found that Avina was staring at him. Just as the skinny man was about to attack, Avina delivered a roundhouse kick to his waist, sending him flying back to the other two men. Big brother, this is a bit strong. The other two were shocked. The one who was called Big Brother stood up and said, No, 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 don't be afraid. One by one, go. The three of them stepped forward at the same time. The fat one was holding a meteor hammer that was about the size of his pig head. It was covered with thorns. The big brother was holding a withered yellow staff that looked like a rotten branch. The skinny one was still holding two knives. Go! The three of them attacked at the same time. The first one to attack was the fatty. He placed the meteor hammer 3 centimeters above his head and spun it rapidly. The meteor hammer was like a huge windmill, creating a huge gust of wind. The sand in the air made it hard for Avina to open her eyes. Suddenly, the fatty threw the spiked meteor hammer towards Avina. You can't hit him. Avina tiptoed and took a step to the left, easily dodging the attack. Humph, I was waiting for you. Avina felt a burst of cold sweat on her back. She turned around and found that the skinny man was waiting for her not far away. Stab! The skinny man retracted his hands and suddenly thrust them out. The purple knife slashed across Avina's waist, leaving a small scar on her skin. Avina was wearing clothes that were more suitable for sports. The dark blue jacket was one of Avina's favorite clothes. At this moment, the scar on Avina's body suddenly seemed out of place. Avina lifted her right leg and then delivered a roundhouse kick to the skinny man to the side. At this moment, a fireball that was exactly the same as the previous one rushed over. I can't block it. Avina crossed her arms with the back of her hands facing outwards, trying to use her body to forcefully block this attack. Shrink! Suddenly, a blue magic array appeared on the incoming fireball. Instantly, the power of the flames was reduced by more than half. Boom! The fireball exploded, sending up a cloud of dust. Ha ha ha, this is... The fat man shouted. Of the fireballs is that. Suddenly, a stream of water spurted out from the dust. The water gathered into a whip in the air and slapped the faces of the three brothers. Who did it? It's that girl, Big Brother. The fat man pointed in Avina's direction and said. The dust gradually dispersed. Avina's figure stood there once again. The sleeves on Avina's forearm had disappeared. There were some faint burn marks on her skin. Reynolds couldn't help but feel pain in his heart. In the world of water, I am the king. With a wave of my hand, I create a current. In the blink of an eye, I create a whirlpool. Reflecting the 7 stars in the sky, I create a mysterious line to guide the way. Big Dipper flow. After the incantation, the water whip in Avina's hand turned into a puddle of water again and dripped onto the ground. Then, the water seemed to be full of vitality and instantly soaked the ground under the feet of the three brothers. Big Brother, what is this? Big Brother, I'm a little panicked. No, don't be afraid. I'm here. Countless water droplets floated from the soil into the air and floated around the three brothers. Big Brother, this is... The fat man freed one of his arms from the 2 arms that were hugging his big brother and pointed to the ground. No, don't be afraid. She is just bluffing. Although they said so, the 3 silly brothers had already hugged each other submissively. A huge crystal blue magic array spread out from under their feet. It enveloped Avina and the 3 brothers at a very fast speed. Then, 7 square blocks of different sizes appeared in the center of the magic array. They were arranged in the shape of the Big Dipper. Then, with a flash of light, the square blocks were connected with each other using water current. Then, 7 super high-pressure water currents shot into the sky. Girl, no, big sister, I'm wrong. Sorry, hurry up. Hurry up and retract your divine ability. The 3 brothers knelt on the ground. Large amounts of tears spurted out from their eyes. It's not easy for us. We have an 80-year-old mother and 2 dogs to take care of. Avina's magic used the gravitational force of the Big Dipper to drive the flow of water. High-pressure water currents could easily cut diamonds, let alone these 7 more powerful water currents. Avina was actually just pretending to release a simple magic on the surface. In fact, she did not have enough magic power to cast such a high-level magic. Seeing that this magic had completely stunned the 3 brothers, Avina also retracted her magic power and let the magic disappear. The water currents that were shot out suddenly lost the traction of magic power and fell vertically under the influence of gravity. The 3 brothers were instantly drenched. The man in the lead climbed up in a sorry state. "Let's go. Big brother, you're not stuttering anymore." "How is that possible? My stuttering is the aftereffect of my illness when I was young." The big brother seemed to have realized something. "Really, I really don't stutter anymore. Avina, it seems that your water currents have smashed his brain. Miss, thank you for your help. I will never forget such a great kindness in my life. Let's go." Seeing the 3 brothers leave happily, Avina felt a little relieved. After all, this was her first battle with outsiders. Reynolds slapped his head. He could not think of any idiom to describe the 3 of them. At this moment, accompanied by a series of cracking sounds, a crack suddenly appeared under Avina's feet. "What's that sound? Avina, be careful." Before Avina could react, the ground under her feet suddenly collapsed and she flew toward the cliff behind her. Chapter 635. Avina's mind went blank. She didn't understand what was going on. "Wait, I haven't." Just as they were about to fly off the road, the crystal on the carriage suddenly emitted an extremely dazzling light. Avina saw a black disc appear in front of her. Renaud flew out from it, grabbed her arm, and pulled Avina back. In that instant, time seemed to have stopped in front of Wena's eyes. The position that Reynolds was grabbing was where her arm was burned by the fireball. Although waves of stinging pain constantly stimulated her, this indescribable feeling made her feel so blissful. Avina looked straight into Reynolds's eyes, as if they were a bottomless ocean. She always felt that she was going to be immersed in it. Reynolds turned around and pulled with all his might. The 2 of them returned to the side of the carriage. "Teacher, Avina said with embarrassment. "Idiot." Reynolds knocked Avina's head lightly. "Luckily, I was able to use this crystal to teleport here in time. Otherwise, you would have fallen down." "Teacher." Avina was a little touched. Other than her parents, perhaps only this person in front of her would be willing to teleport here for her. Wena hugged Renaud's waist tightly with a puff sound. "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." Reynolds patted Avina's head and comforted her. After a while, the 2 returned to the carriage. The collapse just now had caused the carriage to be in a state where it couldn't move forward. Reynolds specially used another magic to restore the carriage to its original state before the collapse. "Are you okay?" I'm fine. "Avina, were you taken by the robber just now? Why are you stuttering now?" Reynolds joked. No. Haha, you're still denying it. "Teacher, you always bully me." Reynolds suddenly remembered that Avina's hand was burned. He squatted beside Avina's knees and gently pulled up the new clothes that Avina had just changed into. Of course, the so-called change of clothes was just a change of clothes. This place wasn't suitable for a girl to change clothes. Seeing Reynolds's actions, Avina's adrenaline was rapidly secreted. Her delicate little face suddenly turned red. She looked like she wanted to say something but didn't dare to. It was really cute. Reynolds gently grabbed the upper part of Avina's wrist. Although Avina had already treated the wound simply, it was only limited to a thin layer of gauze on the outside. "Hiss!" Avina gasped. In fact, Reynolds's action of tearing the gauze was already very careful, but it still inevitably caused some pain. "Some of the gauze is already stuck to the flesh?" Reynolds muttered softly. "Avina, your injury is more serious than I thought. Although I'm not very good at healing magic, don't worry, I have other methods. When Reynolds had asked Avina to challenge the three robber brothers, he had already thought of a plan in case she got hurt. It wouldn't be good to go home with a body full of injuries. There are two twin stars in the sky, one heart and one mind, no distinction between one and the other. Shift. A small white magic formation appeared above Avina's wound. This magic formation was slightly different from the usual ones. The runes at the edge of the magic formation were obviously a few times more than other magic formations. It could even be said that they were densely packed, and it was difficult to see any of the runes with the naked eye. It's so comfortable. Audina felt that her wound was healing at a moderate speed, accompanied by a faint cooling sensation. It was as if an indescribable soft object was caressing her. After a while, Avina's wound had completely healed, and white, tender skin once again appeared on her arm. Little girl, be careful next time. You're lucky I was there this time, or the consequences would be unimaginable. Teacher, why did the magic just now seem different? Oh, that's a special magic. Special magic. Isn't that something only very powerful people can do? Teacher, you're so powerful. Avina subconsciously hugged Reynolds's arm. Ugh, teacher, what's wrong? Audina followed Reynolds's line of sight and realized that her well-developed chest was sandwiching the teacher's arm in the middle. Ugh, teacher, I didn't do it on purpose. Avina's face instantly flushed even redder than before, and she suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Ahem. My child is developing really well these days. If there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Reynolds stood up, and a black disc that was just taller than his body appeared in the carriage. Just as Reynolds took a step into it, Avina's voice suddenly sounded from behind. Teacher, you must look really good in a maid costume. Poochie. Reynolds staggered and fell into the black disc. Teacher, you can do it. Avina looked out of the window with happiness written all over her face. The scenery is so beautiful. Oh, Erlang, I went to buy a lot of food today, including white, red, and green. Speaking of green, I think of an unbearable past. Why is the hat green? It's because of love. In the depths of the forest, a short figure was happily jumping forward, humming an indecent folk song from his hometown. This place was near the ancient tree where Reynolds had found Natalia lying. The figure was still moving closer and closer. Judging from the song, the voice sounded a little young, and his off-key ability to kill people was probably comparable to Reynolds's. The surrounding fog dispersed, and the figure actually looked a little familiar. It was actually the chubby boy that Reynolds had met in Wildflower Village. There was a vegetable basket hanging from the chubby boy's right wrist, which was filled with white, red, and green vegetables. Of course, most of the vegetables were green. He was also wearing a pointed green hat with a product label on it. Reynolds had no idea where he got it from. The chubby boy walked and jumped to the side of the ancient tree. Huh? That's strange. Where did my toy go? The chubby boy seemed to be looking for something. Suddenly, his nose twitched as if he had smelled something special. Oh, it's little Reynolds. It seems that he came earlier than I expected. Forget it, I'll give my toy to him. Chapter 636. Little Fatty came to the hidden door. Before Reynolds left, he had cast a more advanced spell on the hidden door to prevent others from discovering it. But little Fatty passed through it like a ghost. Seeing that someone had come here, the large spiders in the tunnel began to move again. They surrounded little Fatty in the middle, ready to attack at any time. Do you want to play games with me? Little Fatty smiled innocently. Then, the spiders stopped moving as if they were dead. A gust of wind blew past, and their bodies fell to the ground, splitting into pieces of minced meat. Even the black bead turned into powder. Humph, you guys really can't take it. Let's go. In the next moment, little Fatty disappeared, leaving only the basket in his hand and the vegetables in it on the ground. Really? Brother Reynolds, why did you come back with injuries all over your body after going out for a while? In the room, Natalia sat in front of Reynolds, puffing out her two big cheeks as she spoke unhappily. "Haha, I accidentally fell down." "What, you can get burns from falling down? Still not telling the truth?" Natalia touched Reynolds's arm with bad intentions, and he immediately stood up from the pain. Hey! In fact, the spell that Reynolds used on Avina was not a so-called healing spell. It was a special type of spell that could transfer wounds. Using some profound principles, it could transfer wounds from other people to oneself. Reynolds had used this spell to transfer the burns on Avina's arm to his own body. "Really, why don't you think more for yourself?" Reynolds explained the ins and outs of the matter to Natalia simply. Just as Reynolds said, he was indeed not good at using healing spells. "If it weren't for the fact that I know healing magic, would you have waited for your wounds to heal?" Hee. Reynolds scratched his head awkwardly. She guessed right. Natalia pulled up Reynolds's sleeve, and then used a wood element healing spell on the wound. Wood healing? Natalia's palm slowly emitted bits of green fluorescent light that floated towards Reynolds's wound. The area that was burned by the fire became cool, and in a short while, Reynolds's injury had already healed. Haha, as expected of Natalia. That's amazing! Reynolds immediately stood up as if he had forgotten the pain. Natalia blushed when she heard Reynolds's praise. Brother Reynolds, you have to promise me that you won't do this kind of thing again. You are the Lord Demon King of our demon race. How can you hurt yourself just for a human? Haha, I know. I wonder what's so good about that girl named Avina 3000. Why is the Devil King so? Natalia muttered in a low voice. Looking at her jealous expression, no one knew what she was thinking. Of course, Reynolds did not hear her. On this day, it wasn't too far away from the start of the Holy Sword Dance Eastern Region Selection Competition. Let's summarize the current cultivation gains of Avina and Tizia. Avina obtained a large spider corpse, which greatly increased her magic capacity. Her physical fitness and stamina also increased by a lot due to her daily morning jogging. Of course, the most important thing was that she obtained a simplified version of the Black Disc Magic Book from Reynolds. This magic turned out to be a special type of magic called Black Hole. After so many days of study and hard work, Avina finally grasped a little bit of it. Lamy Natalia had obtained a set of 6 divine wings. Because of the magic particles, his physical fitness had also improved greatly. Thanks to Reynolds, his body was filled with dense wood element magic power, and his recovery ability had improved significantly. Hey, what the hell is this explanation that sounds like a game system? Speaking of the fact that her body was filled with wood element magic, perhaps even Tizia herself might not know about it. In fact, Tizia had mentioned it before when they were training in the open space, but she had probably forgotten about it by now. Simply put, wood element magic had a very strong recovery ability. Avina's parents were actually a pair of very good examples. It was precisely because of the vines wrapped around their bodies that kept transferring a large amount of wood element magic into their bodies that the bodies of Avina's parents could be preserved. It was precisely because Reynolds knew about this that he tested Tizia during the competition with a strength that was almost beyond what she could bear. The air outside is still the best. Reynolds stretched his body and slowly walked out of the room, looking at the clouds in the sky. This kind of life is still the most comfortable. Reynolds found a slope and quietly lay on it. He did not know why, but he actually felt very happy when he silently looked at the clouds floating by. Black hole. Reynolds stretched out his hand and took out a small golden box with blue eyes from the black disc. There were patterns inlaid with rubies on it, and it definitely looked like a very expensive treasure. Reynolds had always been known for his frugality. Although he was the Demon King, he rarely did extravagant and wasteful things. For example, when he ate, he would never leave a single grain of rice behind, and when he bought something, he would always return a third of the price. Well, except for the occasional times when he would steal something from his younger brother, Yushin, to buy food, he could be said to be very thrifty. Reynolds gently stroked the small golden box. "Pata!" He then took out a small booklet that was already a little yellow. The cover of the booklet was hand-painted, and it was a painting of the blue sky and bird. At the same time, there were also many other booklets in the luxurious box. Reynolds had preserved them so well, it seemed that he really cherished them very much. These booklets were all of the same size, and recorded all of the good memories that Reynolds had experienced. Every time there was something worth being happy about, Reynolds would record it in a combination of pictures and words in the booklet. Opening the booklet with the sky and birds on the cover, there was already some content inside. On the first page, there was a painting of a very beautiful and cute white-haired young man riding a big white rabbit lost in the forest. On the second page, there was a painting of a white-haired young man and a big white rabbit standing in front of the gate of the Sun Mengshu Magic Academy and looking up at the signboard. Chapter 637. On the third page, there was a girl with blonde hair and light orange eyes who was fighting with a boy with white hair for a drumstick. On the fourth page, there was a girl with short dark purple hair. Looking at the pictures on the album, flipping page by page, Reynolds unconsciously revealed a very happy expression on his face. He then continued to flip. He flipped very slowly, afraid that he would miss something. After a while, Reynolds finally found a blank piece of paper. He waved his hand and a paintbrush appeared. He placed the back end of the paintbrush against his small head, tilted his head, and thought for a moment. Then, he gently wrote on the paper. The corners of his mouth unconsciously curved upwards. He looked really happy. The territory of the 3,000 aristocratic families was very big, and they ruled a small city in the eastern border region. The territory here was vast, and there were rich mineral resources and land resources. It was widely known among the human race that the demon race was incomparably ferocious, killing people on sight. The entire eastern border region was close to the demon race's ruling area, so the prosperity here was slightly behind the other regions. "Dad, Mom, I'm back!" A very pleasant and clear voice sounded. "My baby is finally back." After many days of trekking, although there were a few small accidents on the way. "Hey, you call being robbed an accident?" Avina returned home smoothly. According to the standard of the country, aristocrats must live in high-end houses and use luxurious equipment. Regarding this rigid rule, there were actually many simple ministers who opposed it, but they were all rejected by the king's words, "We aristocrats should be superior." Although the area ruled by the 3,000 aristocratic families was not rich, and the basic necessities could barely reach the standard of food and clothing, the people living on this land lived a very happy and comfortable life. The Lord, Avina's father, never collected high taxes, and if there was something good, he would even share it with the people, so he was very loved and respected by the people. Since returning to the small city, the people on the street instantly recognized Avina. "Oh, isn't this Miss 3000? We have some delicious fruits in our store. Quick, take some. Your lousy fruits can't make you hungry, miss. Come and eat the fresh fish I just caught." Everyone on the street greeted Aina warmly. This was all thanks to the popularity she had accumulated over the years. "Daughter, I've seen the letter you sent back. It's really amazing to represent the Academy in the Sacred Sword Dance Festival. Dad, I'm so happy for you." Avina's father sat excitedly on the sofa with snot and tears running down his face. This man looked quite mighty. He was 1.88 meters tall, and his black hair was like a spiky ball. His name was San Qianwu. "You're already so old, yet you're still sticking to me like a child," Avina complained. "What? My daughter, don't you love your father anymore?" "Well, it seems that I can only go to the fruit orchard and use my blood to water the fruit trees that they carefully care for. Then, I will go to the sea to fish and use my body to feed the small fish that are still crying for food. I hope that they will have a good harvest next year. After saying that, San Qian Wu patted his knees and slowly stood up. Yes, his movements were very slow. Hey, I'm already out the door. Why isn't anyone stopping me yet? San Qian Wu peeked at the living room from the corner of his eyes and realized that Ai Weina was happily chatting with her mother. Finally, realizing that the 3000 Epiphany was still moving slowly, Aweina's mother turned around. Hey, why aren't you out yet? Do you want me to give you a ride? Daughter, save me. San Qian Wu cast a glance at Aweina, secretly hinting for her to quickly come and save him. Unfortunately, there was no movement from Avena's side. My daughter, I feel that she is getting farther and farther away from me. San Qian Wu suddenly had an idea and thought of a way to get out of his current predicament. Hey, my daughter, why did you suddenly think of going home? Could it be that you miss your father? Unfortunately, he didn't dare to say the words that followed because he had already seen the murderous gaze that his wife shot over. Avena's mother looked very young. Her long purple hair was like a 3,000 feet long waterfall hanging behind her head. Her black eyes revealed a mysterious beauty. Yes, as expected, the daughter had inherited her mother's excellent genes. Oh right, Aveina. Why did you suddenly come home? Yes successfully diverted her attention. Wait, what does yes mean? It's about the preparation for the Sacred Sword Dance Festival. Our new teacher specially took us through special training in order to improve the strength of me, Tizia, and another classmate. Yes, and then. San Qian Wu sat on the sofa next to her and said, Hey, when did you come back? Don't mind it. Ha ha ha. Our teacher told me to go home first and accept the inheritance of heterochromatic pupils. That way, my strength will increase greatly. By the way, Mom, what exactly is our family's heterochromatic pupils? When Avena's parents heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other, then asked hesitantly, Who is your teacher? How did he know about our heterochromatic pupils? When Aveina saw that her parents' reaction was a little strange, she began to speak the truth a little hesitantly. He said that if I gave this to you, you would know. Aveina took out the badge that Reynolds gave her and placed it on the table. This is. Both of their pupils shrank, then suddenly stood up, took the badge on the table, and went back to the house. Aveina, go out and play for a while, we will come out in a moment. Oh! Jing, it's definitely Jing. Yes, it seems that what will come in the end. Jing was the name of Avena's mother. Her full name was San Qian Jing. San Qian Wu took out a scroll made of parchment from a secret compartment in the cupboard in the room. This scroll was left behind by his great-grandfather, and it recorded all kinds of things that happened to San Qian Wu's family. Aveina, come here. San Qian Wu shouted from upstairs. When she came to her parents' room, Aveina saw that the curtains were tightly closed, and a purple magic array was floating in the air. That was a magic array that blocked the sound in the room, so that the things that were discussed in the room wouldn't be heard outside. Gulp! Aveina swallowed a mouthful of saliva. It seemed that there was something serious to talk about. Chapter 638. The door closed naturally with a gust of air released by Jing. Aveina, look! San Qian Wu threw out the scroll in his hand, and then the scroll lit up and floated in the air. With a wave of his hand, the brown hemp rope that bound the scroll fell to the ground, and the scroll slowly unfolded in the air. This scroll is my great-grandfather's record of something that happened to our San Qian Wu family in his generation. 1,000 years ago, the human race started a war with the demon race, and the war lasted for thousands of years. At that time, my great-grandfather was a doctor, rushing to various big cities and small mountain villages. He deeply felt that the lives of the people were unbearably difficult because of the war, so he proposed a truce to the king, but my great-grandfather's proposal was not adopted by the king. At the same time, my great-grandfather was chased by the radical faction. At this point, San Qianwu was stuck, as if he didn't want to continue. And then? Avina asked anxiously. She felt as if she was listening to a story halfway through, and the story was already tantalizing, but she suddenly stopped talking. The radical faction's chase was very fast. They even sent a magus to chase after my great-grandfather. In desperation, my great-grandfather came to the border of the demon race, but the war there was tense. My great-grandfather was attacked as a spy, but was later rescued by someone? Rescued? Then what does this have to do with the badge that teacher gave me? The person who saved my great-grandfather brought him to the demon world and took good care of him, as if he was a guest. Avina was a little confused. Isn't there a war? How can they still treat humans as guests? When my great-grandfather came to the demon world, everything he saw was very different from the rumors. Although the demon race lived in groups according to the tribe at that time, and the standard of living was backward, there was no such thing as a homicidal maniac, at least that was the case in that tribe. My great-grandfather asked the person who saved him why he saved him, so that person explained the purpose of his visit to my great-grandfather. In fact, a good friend of his had passed away due to illness, but he collected that person's soul, and he wanted my great-grandfather to sign a contract. Contract? Yes, it's a contract. The contract is to combine the soul of that friend with the descendant of great-grandfather. If there is an existence in the descendant with a high compatibility with the soul, then the soul will merge with the existence with a high compatibility. But this is equivalent to resurrection. How can such a thing exist? Indeed, although I can't believe it, it's true. Avina's mother continued the topic and continued in a very gentle voice. The heterochromatic pupils is actually the proof of the contract. My great-grandfather once asked why they were heterochromatic pupils. It is said that this is an ability of my Savior's friend. His friend was also a magic genius. Because of a research accident, her two eyes were different colors, but at the same time, it gave her special abilities. That's right, my great-grandfather, of course, my Savior's father. When my Savior saved my great-grandfather's grandfather, he said that when you see this badge, it of my Savior. S of this, S. Avina, what's your teacher like? His name is Renaud, but he looks very young and handsome. Since great-grandfather's Savior was from 100 years ago, then he can't be my teacher. Handsome? Your teacher is a woman? No, he's a man. He's very gentle and strong, even stronger than Dad. Avina, do you know why I didn't let you train your heterochromatic pupils when you were young? I don't know. Avina shook her head. It's because you're the one with the highest compatibility. Avina's heart skipped a beat. Dad and Mom's heterochromatic pupils can be concealed, but your heterochromatic pupils can't be concealed. That's not right. Shouldn't it be that the higher the compatibility, the better it can be concealed? Think about it. If the left side of a cup is filled with water and the right side of the cup is filled with ink, then we can change the direction of the cup so that others will see the murky ink. But when there is only water in the cup, then no matter how you adjust the direction, it will always be water. Oh! Finally, under her father's explanation, Avina completely fell into the endless cycle of reincarnation. I don't understand. Dad and Mom are just worried that after you train your heterochromatic pupils, you'll become that unknown so-called friend. It's fine, Dad and Mom. Avina sighed with relief. So that's the reason. Dad and Mom, don't worry. I, Avina, will always be your good daughter. Daughter. San Qianjing nodded with relief. My daughter, you're right. I'll always love you. Wu was so moved that he cried. His appearance was a huge contrast with his figure. After a short while, Avina received the parchment and a thick book from her father. According to her father, the book recorded the relevant information about heterochromatic pupils and the training method, but only the one with the highest compatibility could open it. The cover of the book was also a little shabby. The color was blue, but now it had already turned gray. There were two incomprehensible figures at the bottom right corner of the cover, and they didn't know what they meant. Avina went back to her room. She hadn't been back for a long time, and it felt so good. After a comfortable bath, Avina sat on her bed in her pajamas. Her hair was still a little wet, and there was a trace of redness on her face. Obviously, it was the reaction after the bath. In order to create a historical atmosphere, Avina specially turned on a small lamp above her head, and then sat in the middle of the bed with her legs crossed. The pajamas were the fluffy and cute bunny style. Since the last time she saw Reynolds' pajamas in his room, Avina spent a lot of effort to get the same style of pajamas. However, the pajamas she was wearing were white. When she lay on the ground, she looked like a big abai. Just like what San Qianwu said, the parchment did indeed record the past experiences of his great-grandfather, Avina's great-grandfather. Avina skimmed through the parchment. As she continued reading, Avina finally understood why her parents practiced heterochromatic pupils. According to the parchment, once Avina fully mastered heterochromatic pupils, she would completely unlock the memories of the friend who saved her great-grandfather's life. Perhaps she wouldn't be the current Avina. Chapter 639. Reading this, Avina cheered herself up. Come on, Avina. You'll definitely defeat that person's memory. She skimmed through the parchment a few more times and finally finished reading it. Avina put the parchment into the drawer of her bedside table, then picked up the heavy book. There was always an indescribable feeling. Avina always felt that this book had some slight attraction to her. Flipping open the faded cover, what appeared next was a bunch of densely packed words. It seems that I'm indeed the most compatible one. When you read this book, I'll be so proud of you. Hey, why are there still typos? Then, the same content appeared on the next line. When you read this book, congratulations. You've inherited the will of my best friend. Oh, I even started a new line and started writing again. In the following days, Avina even read the book that recorded the information about heterochromatic pupils like a storybook. After all, the book was full of typos and scribbles. At the beginning of the book, there were a lot of typos. It was okay to write congratulations as congratulations, but later on there was even a will as unfulfilled will, which made Avina laugh. Later on, because there were too many typos, the author didn't even bother to write a new line. Instead, she just used ink to write across on the previous typos to deal with it. As Avina read, she suddenly found some jagged edges on the inside of the book. It seemed that a page had been torn off. Combined with the ink mark on the next page, it seemed that the page had been torn off. Yes. Sure enough, there were too many typos, which caused the page to be torn off in anger. I don't know why, but the tone of this book is very familiar. Avina continued reading. As expected, as the narrative continued, the words recorded in the book became uglier and uglier. It was like a primary school student writing a 1,000-word essay. The more he wrote, the more impatient he became. In the end, he let himself loose. Haha, it's really like Mr. Reynolds. Somewhere at this time. Achoo! Someone is speaking ill of me. After reading to the end, Avina slowly closed the book. Her slightly depressed mood suddenly brightened up because of the book. In short, this book was about the abilities and cultivation methods of heterochromatic pupils. Avina went through the important points in the book in her mind. Heterochromatic pupil can give the user the ability to see through and enhance. It can see through the facade and directly attack the essence of the target. However, it will also increase the consumption of magic power. It is like a double-edged sword. Whether it is good or bad depends on the user's judgment. Wow, she's very smart. The rabbit tail on Avina's pajamas swayed, looking a little charming. According to the book, in order to perfectly control the power of heterochromatic eyes, one had to draw a magic array with their own mana. Then, they had to implant the magic array into the eyeball. Through constant control of the magic array, they could control the power of heterochromatic eyes. Avina thought for a moment. Theoretically speaking, this method should work. I can give it a try. There was a picture of this magic array in the book. It seemed to be a huge project. The magic array corresponding to ordinary magic was composed of several layers of circles and runes. However, this magic array actually had a six-pointed star and an inverted triangle. This greatly increased the difficulty of drawing the magic array. Every stroke had to be perfectly symmetrical. Fortunately, there were still 2 weeks before the Sacred Sword Dance World's Eastern Region preliminaries, the 7 schools skipping competition. Otherwise, she was afraid that she wouldn't have enough time. I'll do it tomorrow. Sleep, sleep. Avina lifted the quilt under her butt and crawled under it. She was still holding the book with many wrong words in her arms. She felt that it had Mr. Reynolds's scent. After a while, she fell into a deep sleep. Cuckoo, cuckoo! The sound of cuckoo birds chirping came from outside the window. It was a little noisy. Ah! Avina sat up from the bed, stretched, and yawned. I slept so well. Her hair was a mess, and even the bunny pajamas she was wearing had some creases. The originally smiling bunny head hat, hanging behind her neck, was also pressed into a crying face. It feels so good to be home. Cuckoo birds chirp during the day. Hey! Today was her first day back home. She couldn't waste such a good time. After all, the 7 schools skipping competition was not far away. Avina's room was very big. After all, there was another lazy person living here, Avina. Avina was adopted by the 3,000 families after the tragedy in Hope Village. Her family was very good to her. Avina was also very willing to be friends with her. The relationship between the two could be said to be very good. How good was it? Let's give a few examples. First of all, the two of them shared a room. On the left and right sides of the room, there were 2 beds with different styles. Avina's bed was warm, while Avina's bed was very warm. The two of them were inseparable, just like twins. Therefore, some of the tableware, toiletries, and other things were also bought as a pair. I wonder how Avina is now. Hey! That drumstick is mine. Humph! Have you ever heard of the saying, first strike first? Humph, I knew it. Luckily, I was more skillful and spat my saliva on the drumstick in advance. Enjoy it slowly. You're so evil. You flatter me, you flatter me. At this moment, Reynolds reluctantly put the drumstick in his hand back on the plate. The next moment, it was snatched away by Avina, who was sitting opposite him. Brother Reynolds, you can eat mine. Gio gave the drumstick in her bowl to Reynolds. I'm so touched. Avina saw someone put the drumstick in Reynolds's bowl. Her 2 cheeks suddenly puffed up like 2 big balloons, looking a little like a toad. Then she put on a pitiful look and looked at Lilith with a pleading look. Humph! Lilith was about to bite the drumstick in her mouth when she suddenly felt something dazzling beside her. She glanced sideways and saw Avina looking at her with tears in the corners of her eyes. Lilith looked at Avina and then looked at the drumstick in her hand. It seemed that she was struggling with something. Finally. Chapter 640. If you don't mind, you can have mine. Thank you so much. Avina snatched away the drumstick that originally belonged to Lilith. Don't bully Lilith, okay? Reynolds had no choice but to give Lilith Gio's drumstick. Back to the 3,000 families. Avina, who had just finished breakfast with her parents, went to a small hill in the town by herself. This place was relatively empty, and almost no one knew about this place. Therefore, Avina treated this place as a secret base that belonged only to the 2 of them. Sigh. Avina sighed. She couldn't help but think of the look on her father's face when they were eating just now. "Haha, my daughter! Come and try the bento made by your father." The expression of the 3,000 families appeared in her mind again. Avina shook her head hard and threw all the distracting thoughts in her mind to the back of her head. "I don't have much time left. I have to quickly master my heterochromatic pupils." Avina also brought the funny book over. She turned to the page with the magic array and calmed down to carefully observe it. After a while, Avina closed her eyes and used her heart to feel the mystery of the magic array. She reconstructed its appearance in her mind. She slowly raised her right hand. The tip of her index finger emitted a blue light. The tip of her finger spun along with the movement of her wrist, leaving a circle formed by water magic in the air. Okay, the first step is completed. Immediately after, Avina wrote a bunch of runes on the inner circle as a medium. Her fingertip began to move again. The next step was to draw a hexagram inside the runes. This time, she drew very slowly. Her speed was probably slower than a turtle's crawl. Yes, men can't be too fast. Although Avina is a woman. Suddenly, with a bang, Avina's hand trembled and directly caused the magic array in the air to break. "It's so difficult." Avina sighed. This was not only a big test of one's magic storage, but also a test of one's concentration. Again. Just like that, everyone finally stepped into the door of magic. Avina wanted to walk the path of a magic swordsman. To put it bluntly, she wanted to be a swordsman who used magic to strengthen her melee combat abilities. This position would often play the role of restricting the enemy's attacks, attracting firepower, and attacking the front line. According to the latest notice that had just been passed down yesterday, this year's 7 schools skipping competition would be conducted using the isolated island battle, which was ranked first in the voting list. The rules of the competition were very simple. They would use an extremely rare spatial magic array to teleport the referee and the participating teams to an uninhabited island. 3 people would be in a team, and each member would carry a small flag. As long as the small flag was taken away, that member would also be eliminated, and the last 3 teams remaining on the island would win. In other words, this competition is a test of the team's tacit understanding. Reynolds was lying on the table, yawning nonstop. Whoa! In order to focus on improving the overall level of this team, Reynolds didn't waste his time. The fact that a lazy bum like Reynolds could happily come up with a strategic plan showed how much importance he attached to this 7-school jump. Should I give them an S-rank destruction spell? No, that would be against the rules, and it wouldn't be interesting. Reynolds thought for a moment. I've decided. I'll teach them an A-rank detection spell. Reynolds called over Lilith, who had been diligently practicing magic, and discovered that Lilith was now able to completely master this miniature black hole spell. Lilith, I came to find you this time mainly because of the 7 schools skipping competition. After that, Reynolds briefly explained the latest rules of the 7 schools skipping competition to Lilith, and then taught her a magic incantation. It was said that through this spell, one could instantly obtain the position of their teammates and communicate with them across space, using this effect to achieve an unexpected surprise attack. Lilith was also quite smart. She could remember most of it after Reynolds explained it once. Lilith didn't ask what level of magic it was, because Reynolds was already close to an omnipotent existence in her eyes. Magic and theories such as creation research and black hole were all things that would shock the world if they were brought out, and Reynolds actually taught them to an outsider as if they were cabbages. This showed how amazing he was. After returning from Lilith's place, Reynolds immediately went to Avina's place. Avina was currently cultivating in another part of the forest. In order to cater to her cultivation method, Reynolds specially created an open space for her. He used magic to move hundreds of trees to a place with relatively less vegetation, leaving only a very lush patch of grass growing on the ground. Then, he placed a very large and very tall wooden stake in the middle of the grass, and Avina was currently sitting on it. Oh, Reynolds saw from afar that there were countless dark green magic particles in the sky gradually surging into Avina's body, and her temperament suddenly became more gentle. "Avina!" Renaud shouted. "Reynolds, idiot? Hey! In any case, I'm still your teacher. Can you give me some face?" Avina slowly opened her eyes, and Reynolds seemed to see a trace of green light appear in her eyes, but it was only for a moment. Bang! Avina jumped down from the wooden stake. "Where's the food?" "What food? I'm not here to deliver food." "Tisk. Then what are you doing here?" Hey, at least pretend to be happy. You're hurting my young heart." Avina glanced at Reynolds. "You're not young anymore, and you're still acting cute like a child. I'm very young in the Eternal Night Clan, okay?" Reynolds sighed helplessly and brought the topic back to the main topic. "This time, I'm mainly here to tell you that the rules adopted for the 7 schools leap this time are isolated island battles, the so-called isolated island battles." "What? Isolated island battles?" Avina appeared very agitated. "Can you wait for me to finish before you get agitated?" Sorry, obviously, Avina's apology was very superficial. "I took some time to read all the information about the Holy Sword Song and Dance festivals that were held in the past, and the one that left the deepest impression on me was this isolated island battles." Avina gulped and continued to talk non-stop. "This is like surviving in the wilderness, it sounds especially fun. And it especially tests the contestants' ability to sustain combat and adapt to changing situations. I'm looking forward to sparring with those experts." Chapter 641. "Oh, since you know so much, then I won't say much. I have a detection magic to teach you. When the time comes, the 3 of you can use this magic to grasp the position of your teammates in real time and communicate with them." "Oh my God! What kind of magic is this? It looks so powerful." "This is an A-grade magic that I developed myself, star detection. This can ignore the current magic level of the caster and directly rely on the chanting of the incantation to activate it." So powerful! It was the first time Avina heard of a magic that could ignore the level of the caster. In other words, even if it was a 3-year-old child, as long as he could speak and smoothly chant the incantation, then this magic could be activated. If this magic was used by the army, the result would be unimaginable. Avina realized the importance of this magic. Don't be so infatuated with me. I, your teacher, am just a legend." "Humph. I gave you a ladder and you climbed it. No matter what, thank you very much." After listening, Reynolds suddenly raised his head and looked around. "The weather is normal. The wind speed is normal. The temperature is normal. What's wrong with you?" Seeing Reynolds suddenly acting strange, Avina opened her mouth and asked. "I'm trying to see what kind of reason could make our Miss Avina say thank you to me." Scram! After a little mischievous at Avina's place, Reynolds teleported to Avina's place. Speaking of teleportation, this magic could be said to be very convenient, just like teleportation in novels. However, the range of teleportation could only be released within a short distance. If one wanted to go from one place to another place that was very far away, then there must be something similar to coordinate. The crystal necklace that he gave to Avina before actually had this function. Reynolds had injected a trace of his magic into this crystal. Fortunately, it was also because of this that he was able to teleport to the 3,000 families thousands of miles away. For some reason, Reynolds had recently developed a habit, that is, before looking for a person, he must hide and secretly observe the other party's situation before appearing. Why do I feel like a stalker? There was a huge tree on top of Avina and Avina's secret base, and its shade could almost cover the entire slope. A gust of wind blew, and the leaves rustled. The air was filled with the smell of dew, and it was somewhat cool. It could be said to be a summer resort. Reynolds chose a spot on the treetop and sat down quietly. His legs dangled in the air and swayed back and forth with the breeze. He rested his chin on his right hand and silently watched Avina, who was inscribing a magic array. "It's finally done," Avina shouted. At this moment, a blue magic array hovered in front of Averna. It looked very cool. Multiple layers of concentric circles formed the outermost framework of the magic array, followed by 3 hexagons with different angles occupying the largest area of the magic array. The innermost part of the magic array was an inverted triangle. Avina took a deep breath and took out her handkerchief to wipe off the sweat on her neck. Huh? Why is Avina using this method to practice magic arrays? I remember that when I was writing that book, I mentioned that if you want to control your heterochromatic pupils, there is another simple way. That's right, it was just as everyone had guessed. The person who had saved Avina's great-grandfather was actually Reynolds. In order to make it easier for future generations to control the power of heterochromatic pupils, Reynolds wrote this book. The so-called other way was to find a spirit of nature and store it in one's eyes. When Reynolds was writing the second way before, he was eating and writing at the same time. He had no idea that the gummy candy he ate had completely covered the 2 pages. If one didn't pay attention, they might have missed it. After all, the book was so poorly written that no one would find it strange. Oh, it's starting. Avina took a deep breath and adjusted herself to the best state again. Move. The blue magic array gradually shrank until it was the size of a pupil. It then slowly floated towards Avina's eye. In the end, the 2 joined together and made a squeaking sound. After a few seconds, the magic array had completely merged with the eye. Avina opened her eyes slowly, and there was a stinging pain. "I think I still need some time to get used to it." Wow. When he fully opened his eyes, the whole world suddenly felt different. Countless green fluorescent dots emerged from the trees and grass, filling the sky. The curved leaves were like boats, drifting away with the wind. Endless brown particles also emerged from the soil. They were like bubbles, light and full of boundless fun when touched. Are these the magic particles that Mr. Reynolds mentioned? It's so spectacular. Who is it? Suddenly, Avina saw 1 or 2 black particles floating in her field of vision. She immediately sensed that there might be people around her. "Haha, don't be nervous. It's me, Mr. Reynolds," Avina shouted in surprise. "Little girl, you're pretty good." After merging with the magic array, Avina's originally light blue and crystal blue eyes were filled with layers. They were shining and moving. Her temperament had also improved by a lot. Avina seemed to be a little dissatisfied with being called a little girl. "Mr. Reynolds, I've grown up. I'm not a child anymore. Haha. Our Avina is already a great beauty, haha." Reynolds patted Avina's head. The current Avina looked exactly like a friend of his. If he didn't pay attention, he wouldn't be able to tell who was who. Reynolds once again explained the reason for his visit. "Sigh, I've already said it 3 times today. I'm so tired. An isolated island battle? That's a little troublesome. The Cerberus School of Magic and the Bright Dragon School of Magic are very good at this kind of battle. Amazing. You can actually see the situation clearly in an instant. I'm going to teach you a spell. Listen to the incantation. The stars in the sky all belong to my palm. From 1 to 2, the world's power belongs to my eyes. Star survey. I'll remember it." Avina closed her eyes and temporarily turned off the ability provided by her heterochromatic pupils. The stars in the sky all belong to my palm. From 1 to 2, the world's power belongs to my eyes. Star survey. She chanted the incantation that Reynolds had mentioned. Suddenly, she saw many yellow dots floating in front of her. Then, they formed a topographic map of the surrounding area. Outside the topographic map, there were 2 constantly flashing red dots. That should be the current position of Avina and Natalia. Chapter 642. So powerful. Avina also felt the power of this magic. You should familiarize yourself with this magic. And if there's nothing else, I will be going back first. Avina seemed to be a little disappointed. Before leaving, Reynolds even praised Avina. Today seems to be pretty good. Woo! Activating the space jump magic, Reynolds's body suddenly emitted a dazzling white light and disappeared from the spot. I am so tired, so tired. Hurry up and finish eating and sleep. Originally, he thought that today's trip was already over, but he didn't expect that just as he returned to his room, another accident happened. At this moment, Reynolds saw that the corner of Avina's mouth was slightly curved upwards. Ha, Reynolds, you actually still don't trust your own student. Pa! Reynolds suddenly gave himself a fierce slap. This was his own punishment for not trusting his student. Ha! Avina held on to Katerina with her right hand and rushed towards the dark demonic person. Although the other party's appearance was very oppressive, to the point that Avina was somewhat unable to breathe, her footsteps still did not stop. The dark demonic person felt a surge of not ordinary magic rushing towards its direction. Immediately, it glanced at the direction where Avina was and brandished its spear. Walala! Another red flame rushed over and blew up a hole in the road in front of Avina. Fortunately, she dodged quickly just now, otherwise she would definitely have been heavily injured. The explosion of the flame caused the dark demonic person to lose sight of Avina. Rushing up like this definitely won't work, there must be a way. Avina's brain was working very quickly, and she finally thought of a way. Avina adjusted the light emitted by the celestial wings to the lowest, then turned around and descended, no longer using the method of flying to advance. She jumped onto the crown of the nearest tree and used the luxuriant branches and leaves to hide her figure. Swoosh! 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 Avina jumped from tree to tree at a speed that was hard to catch with the naked eye. Smart. This way, the enemy will be in the light while we are in the dark. The dark demonic man stood in place, looking everywhere for that mana, but he couldn't find it after it entered the forest. Hey! Suddenly, Avina jumped out from a tree in front of the dark devil. Her celestial wings instantly blossomed with the greatest amount of light. Ah! The dark demon shouted as if he was dazzled. At this moment, he was rubbing his eyes with his left hand. Take this! Avina used the heavenly wings to arrive at the dark demon's abdomen. She raised Katerina high above her head and chopped down with both hands. Katerina cut through the air and let out an ear-piercing sound, leaving a half-meter-long scar on the dark demon's abdomen. Oh my God, it's so sharp! Avina was also shocked by the sharpness of Katerina's sword. She felt as if she was chopping a piece of tofu when she struck the dark demon. There wasn't the slightest bit of resistance. Roar! The dark demon roared fiercely after being hit in the abdomen. It seemed to be in great danger, but fortunately, it had already locked onto Avina's mana. No matter where Avina escaped to, it would be able to sense her position. Not good! The dark demon swung its spear at Avina, but its movement was too big and she dodged it. Condensed blazing heat, transforming into endless flames. Sometimes incomparably ferocious, swallowing the sky and destroying the sun. Sometimes as cold as ice, covering the sky and covering the sun. Explode, ice flame thorn. Avina chanted an incantation. At the same time, many deep blue magic circles appeared above the dark demon's head. They continuously rotated. Finally, after Avina chanted the last word, 7 to 8 arm-thick ice spikes extended from each magic circle. Whoosh! 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 Under Avina's command, all the ice spikes were aimed at the dark demon, and then fiercely smashed into its body like water droplets. Perhaps to the dark demon's body size, an ice spike the size of a human arm wouldn't hurt or itch, but the ice spikes were endless like water droplets. At least 7 to 8 ice spikes pierced the same place. Soon, many holes appeared on the dark demon's body. From afar, it looked a bit like a beehive. If someone with trypophobia saw this, they would definitely be disgusted. Finally, all the ice spikes were released. At this moment, the dark demon actually stood in place, not moving at all. Dead? This thought appeared in Avina's mind. But in the next moment, she firmly denied this answer. Because Avina saw that every wound on the dark demon's body was wriggling. Although it was very weak, she could still sense it. That's right, we dark demons have self-healing abilities, Gio said proudly from the second floor. In the corner of her eye, she saw Renaud floating in the sky. Renaud cast a low-level invisibility spell, so it wasn't difficult for a magus like Gio to see through it. Could it be that Renaud really gave Katerina to me? Watch me. In order not to give the dark demon any time to breathe, Avina actually charged straight at it. This idiot. Just as Avina was close to the dark demon, its originally closed eyes suddenly opened. Not good, I fell for it. The raging flames in the dark demon's eyes condensed into a line and shot towards Avina. You can't dodge it. The high-pressure fire beam pierced through Avina's abdomen, and a very obvious hole appeared in her stomach. There were already some charred pieces of flesh nearby, and blood flowed out uncontrollably. Am I going to die? Her consciousness gradually blurred, and the celestial wings on her back were also burnt black. Without the continuous supply of magic, Avina lost her ability to fly and rapidly fell from the sky. Renaud, you have to believe in your student. She's the saintess. At this moment, Renaud kept telling himself to have faith in his student. If they could win this battle, it would be a huge change for Avina. I don't want to die yet. I haven't taken my revenge yet. I want to kill all the demons to avenge my parents. As her consciousness blurred, Avina seemed to see a very magical scene. It was in the classroom of Dream Shoe Magic Academy again. Renaud was still making things difficult for her, and Flower Bloom was secretly giving her hints. Natalia was in the last row looking at the textbook on the table. Chapter 643. Avina, you can do it! You idiot, don't steal my drumstick again. If you don't mind, you can eat me like a drumstick. I don't want to die yet. I will grant you power, do you need it? Vaguely, Avina seemed to hear a voice calling out to her in the darkness. That voice was very familiar, it sounded exactly like her own voice. Who are you? I am you. I will grant you power, do you need it? I do. Suddenly, with a bang, Avina opened her eyes. All the visible wood elemental magic particles in the forest gathered towards Avina and slowly seeped into her body. The flesh on her abdomen also rapidly regenerated, and almost in an instant, the large hole was healed. Avina's entire body was emitting a dark green light, just like the goddess of the forest. Her lower abdomen was exposed due to her torn clothes, and at this moment her skin was so smooth, the layers of her muscles were just right, and one could almost see the faintly discernible mermaid line. Boom! In the center of Avina's collarbone, there was a diamond-shaped mark. Under the stimulation of the wood elemental magic, it actually moved along her arm to the center of the hilt of Katerina's sword. Katerina let out a violent vibration, as if it was excited about something. Buzz! The blade of Katerina's sword turned dark green, and there were constantly white patterns of light moving rhythmically on it, emitting a dense aura of nature. Immediately after, the celestial wings behind Avina's back also recovered their vitality. With a whoosh, they spread out in the air, and the originally somewhat charred wings were dyed with a faint green color, appearing even more fluffy and soft. The vitality of nature is endless, gently caressing all things on the surface of the earth, nourishing miracles and hope. The distant horizon, the adventure will never stop. Although the chapter has ended, our story will never stop. Forest Vine. Avina floated in front of the dark demon, her red lips lightly moving up and down as she chanted spell after spell. The spirit of her words floated in the air, echoing in the forest. As soon as the incantation was finished, the ground began to rumble. Huge black vines broke out of the ground one after another. The vines were like poisonous snakes, tightly wrapping around the dark demon's limbs, making him look like a dumpling, unable to move. The dark devil seemed to have sensed some danger and immediately became frantic. The long spear once again turned into a stream of fire and returned to its side. It stuck close to the black vines and tried to use the flames to burn these things that were binding it. Roar. Unfortunately, the more the flames burned, the tighter the vines, the more the dark demon's body, the more. Ha ha. Natalia gathered all of her magic onto the hexapod wings, and the hexapod wings became bigger and bigger. In just a short moment, it had already reached a length of 2 meters. Now, Natalia, who was holding the hexapod wings, looked a little funny. The difference in size. It felt as if Natalia was being held in the hexapod wings' hands. Natalia held the hexapod wings behind her with one hand, and then suddenly slashed with all her strength. A green sword chi that seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth rushed toward the dark demon, sticking close to the ground. Finally, when the sword chi finally got close to the dark demon let out a miserable cry, and the green sword chi directly split it into 2 halves. After the dark demon completely lost its vitality, the black vines that were wrapping around its body also slowly retracted back into the ground. The 2 halves of the dark demon's body fell to the ground and turned into fire elemental magic particles that filled the sky and disappeared. I won. After being pleasantly surprised, Natalia felt a very strong sense of dizziness in her head, and then her body seemed to have lost all strength, and she could not feel the existence of anything. Natalia! Reynolds appeared, and with a leap, he caught Natalia, who was in a daze. Idiot! You're finally here. Hey, don't call me an idiot at a time like this. Before she could finish her words, Natalia fell into Reynolds's arms. Good job, Natalia. After the battle, the scene was a mess, and this scene was comparable to the scene in Hope Village. Reynolds had no choice but to use magic to restore the house to its original state. As for the destroyed forest, Reynolds also had his own plans. After that, Reynolds called Katerina to his room, and from there, he learned about the ins and outs of the matter. As it turned out, Katerina saw the hexapod wings in Natalia's hands, and suspected that Natalia had secretly taken the hexapod wings away from Reynolds. Thus, Katerina wanted to take the hexapod wings back, but of course, Natalia refused. And thus, the 2 of them started fighting. Hey you! Even if you want the hexapod wings, you don't have to fight. But that hexapod wings was indeed given to Natalia by me. When Katerina heard this, she became a little unhappy. Reynolds, how could you give the hexapod wings to that little brat? That hexapod wings is a part of the human emperor's armor that you took back from the Saintess. You still don't understand Natalia's affinity with nature, you mean. Natalia is the reincarnation of the Saintess? Yes. Reynolds nodded. The next day, Natalia was full of energy again. She ate the usual amount of food for breakfast, and the Apollo's belt that faintly appeared thanks to the wood element magic particles disappeared again. After breakfast, Reynolds forcefully dragged Natalia and Katerina out of the house. Apologize now. Thus, under Reynolds's threat, the 2 of them had no choice but to apologize to each other and promise that such fights would never happen again. In Natalia's opinion, Katerina actually didn't want to apologize to her. However, he didn't expect Katerina to apologize to him so quickly. I can't help it. I'm sorry. Natalia pouted her lips and said proudly. Right at this moment, Natalia felt something touching her shoulder. She raised her head and saw that Katerina was looking at her with a trace of pity in her eyes. Hey, why do you look at me like that? Why do I feel so pitiful? Katerina patted Natalia's shoulder. It's not easy for you either. What happened? As punishment, Reynolds punished the two of them to plant all the destroyed trees. The whole process was done with their bodies, and they were not allowed to rely on magic. Chapter 644. Although they had put up a meaningless resistance. However, Reynolds's words, "Think about how painful it is when these trees fall down," made the two of them feel a little guilty. There were still 3 days before they set off for Dingqing, the location of the 7 schools leap tournament. This time should be enough for them to bring back these trees. After the battle with the Dark Demon, Reynolds felt that Natalia's strength should be able to handle the 7 schools leap tournament. At the very least, it shouldn't be a problem for her to enter the top 3. As for Natalia, she seemed to have seen Natalia's great improvement and immediately put in more effort. Therefore, Reynolds gave her some knowledge in magic. As for what it was exactly, it would be revealed during the 7 schools leap tournament. It seemed that Avina would directly rush to Dingqing from her home. After all, her home was closer to Dingqing. So on this day, Reynolds suddenly discovered an unexpected crisis. A naming crisis. According to the requirements, the participating teams would definitely use a team name as a codename. I think the team name Fries, Fried Chicken, and Burgers is very good. No. When it comes to eating, I still think the team name Fried Skewers and Barbecue Drinks is more suitable. In the morning, it was time for the regular meeting again. Usually, Reynolds would discuss some topics with Natalia, and Katerina during breakfast. As for Avina's opinion, it wouldn't be too late to ask her later. The names you guys came up with are too unpleasant. How can you use these names? Reynolds put his hands on his hips and puffed out his chest. Natalia, don't you know that fries, fried chicken, and burgers can't be eaten too much? Oh, and Katerina, how can you still fool around like these little brats? Boo-hoo. As for the team name, I think Reynolds is the most handsome man in the world is good. In your dreams. Okay. Natalia and Katerina gave different reactions. At this moment, Natalia, who had been eating silently, gave a suggestion. Blue Enchantress, what do you think? Natalia said a little carefully, afraid that everyone wouldn't like the name. That's because our academy's emblem is a blue-red spider lily. I think it's pretty good. Yes. It's slightly better than my Renault is the most handsome man in the world. Natalia seemed to be insisting on her own unique way of thinking. No, I still think fries and fried chicken burger sounds better. If that's the case, I'll stick to my team name of Renault is the most handsome man in the world. Fried skewers and barbecue drinks sounds better. On this day, the 4 of them completely wasted their time. They didn't do anything at all. They just sat at the table and discussed the team name. After breakfast, they began to discuss and argue. When they came back to their senses, it was time for lunch. Then, they argued again. When they came back to their senses again, it was already night time. Later, he asked Avina about it. Over there, a new team name popped up. It was called Lovelorn Girls. Later on, the 5 of them took 2 words from the team name that they came up with. Reynolds. Natalia, French fries. Natalia, Enchantress. Katerina, drinks. Avina, love. Thus, it became Blue Renault loves Enchantress who drinks and eats French fries. Hey, what the hell is this? How did I become the subject? How about Enchantress who drinks and eats French fries loves Blue Renault? Hey, why do I have to hate Blue Renault? And can't you change the attribution for Enchantress? Enchantress who loves to eat must be a fat woman, all right? You have too many requests. Be careful, the author might write you to death. Sorry. Just like that, the team name of Dream Shoe Magic Academy was decided. The last hope. Time passed like flowing water. Soon, Renault and his team arrived. It was time to set off for Dingqing. Many things had happened during this period. The tragedy in Siwing village, the big spider incident, Natalia's parents beside the underground stone door, This house built by Renault really bore the burden of the recent memories. Everyone struggled together and encountered some unforgettable things here. Suddenly, they said they were going to leave here. It was really a little, so happy. Finally, we can go. The food here is really disgusting. Natalia stretched and complained. It's good enough to have these things to eat. Otherwise, give me back all my drumsticks. Humph. I'll spit it out for you. Do you want it? After a whole night of packing, everyone had already packed their luggage. According to the original plan, the carriage should have arrived at 9 a.m. this morning. However, for some reason, the carriage did not come. This abominable coachman, how dare he ask me for 2 extra copper coins? Maybe Renault and the coachman had a bad talk. Helplessly, they could only find another way to get to Dingxing City. What? Let's go to Dingxing City? Avina roared. Yes, yes. Teacher, I think this method is a little, Natalia said weakly. But, it's very tiring for me to jump to Dingxing City with so many people, Renault said a little unwillingly. At this moment, Natalia had an idea. She rolled her eyes and said, Alas, it seems that we have to wait for a long time before we can eat the delicious food in Dingxing. As she said that, Natalia narrowed her eyes and glanced at Renault to see his reaction. Phew! Phew! Renault's ears twitched. Obviously, he had a change of heart after hearing what Natalia said. Delicious food? Tiring? That's a problem. Since that's the case, I roughly calculated the time just now. Renault changed the topic. If we walk there, it'll be difficult for us to arrive on the stipulated date. At that time, there will be a lot of trouble again. So, I'd better teleport with you. Humph. I got it. Just when Renault was about to put everyone's luggage into his black disc, Natalia suddenly said something. Teacher Renault, let me do it. At first, Renault didn't understand what had happened. Suddenly, he saw the luggage in his hand and suddenly understood. Yes. Renault took back the black disc that he had summoned. Black is the beginning of all things, and it's also the name of ether. The night sky is black, and it wraps the universe. The human heart is black, and no one knows where it is. All the places where the sun can't find are dark. Black hole. Chapter 645. As Natalia finished her incantation, a black circle the size of a palm appeared in her palm and slowly grew to the size of a human head. The edges of the circle were a little illusory and even kept shrinking. It seemed that this was the limit of what Natalia could do. Reynolds didn't say much and put all their luggage in while Natalia was struggling to hold on. There weren't any big things, only some clothes that were necessary for cultivation and travel. 4 large items like beds and other inconvenient items, Reynolds would just create them out of the blue. When everyone was ready, they said goodbye to the wooden house that they had lived in for a while. Space jump. They disappeared on the spot. They had a vague premonition that this house built in the forest would come in handy in the future. Forget it, let's not think about it. Let's go. Let's start our 7 schools jump. As mentioned before, Dingxing City was the largest city in the eastern region of the human realm. In terms of prosperity and territory, Steinanti City was far inferior to Dingxing City. A long time ago, a ferocious fire dragon had come to this place, bringing endless fear and disaster to the people of that time. The flames that the fire dragon spat out could stretch for thousands of miles. Its scales were impenetrable, and its claws and teeth were indestructible. It was said that even S-rank magic could only cause a trace of pain to it. The crops couldn't grow in the high temperature, and the Lord's rescue signal never received any response. At that time, it was the peak of the battle between the human race and the demon race. The king also ordered many soldiers to leave this place. The people lived in vain, and only a few old people stayed to wait for Azrael's arrival. Just when they thought they had been abandoned by the heavens, a brave warrior with a holy sword and platinum-colored armor stood up. She fought with the fire dragon for more than 10 days. Finally, with her strong willpower, she killed the fire dragon and brought hope to the people. After the fire dragon died, the remaining dragon ball in its body was taken away by the Lord and used its energy to rebuild Dingqing. It was precisely because of this that the city was named after the word formed by the 4 hua. Later, the city continued to grow stronger and stronger, and finally developed into the largest city in the eastern region of Jiedong. Somewhere in the city, bang! A white magic array appeared on the shabby bluestone brick. Then, one after another, people came out from inside. We're here already. I didn't have any exciting experiences. Hey, do you think this is a roller coaster? This group of people was, of course, Reynolds and his men who had jumped over from the forest. At this time, Reynolds had once again turned into a robust middle-aged uncle. After all, this city had gathered human experts from all walks of life. Just in case, Reynolds added an even stronger barrier to Katerina and his own demon identity. No one could discover them, not even a Grand Magus. The preset location of the space jump was a very inconspicuous alley. There was no one here, so naturally, there would not be a commotion caused by the sudden appearance of 4 people and 1 rabbit. In fact, Avina had already arrived at Dingqing the day before. She had asked Avina to mark this place so that it would be convenient for her to jump here directly. Long time no see, everyone. Yo, Avina, long time no see. Did you miss me? Turning around, there was a super beautiful girl with short dark purple hair, Avina, standing there. Natalia felt that Avina was a little different from usual, but she couldn't put her finger on it. After a while, she combined it with the word cultivation to get the final answer. Avina, your eyes. Reynolds had given Avina a spell to hide her heterochromatic pupils. Through this spell, Avina could perfectly hide the color of her eyes. At this time, without the support of her heterochromatic pupils, Avina's eyes had turned into a faint gray color. He had lost his usual inviolable aura and was more approachable. It was also very pleasing to the eye. It's all thanks to Mr. Reynolds. Avina stuck out her tongue and said naughtily. Reynolds looked at everyone and found that Natalia also felt a little different from half a month ago. At the same time, there was an indescribable feeling. He felt that she was a lot more noble than before. As for Natalia, she seemed to be more cheerful. It was probably because she had become more familiar with everyone in the past half a month and treated everyone as her friends, or even family. In terms of strength, Avina could also see that Natalia's magical power had increased by more than 1 level through her heterochromatic pupils. Natalia was a trustworthy teammate. Well, because of the delicious food and laziness every day you gained a lot of weight. Reynolds had turned into a middle-aged tree. Other than that, he didn't change much. Oh, this is? Avina saw Katerina standing next to Reynolds. Wow, such a beautiful figure, such a beautiful face. Red hair and red eyes. Avina suddenly felt the pressure of competition. Hello, my name is Katerina. I'm Reynolds's younger sister. Oh, so she's his younger sister. That's good. That's good. No one knew what Avina was thinking. Hello, my name is Avina. I'm Reynolds's student. Humph. I don't care. You have to give me the thing in your hand today. Dream on. This is something Reynolds gave me. What right do you have to take it back? What? Devil. Reynolds would never do such a stupid thing. Give it back to me. The location that Reynolds set for his space jump was in his room. Just as he returned to his room, there were noises coming from upstairs. When Reynolds used magic to build this house, he specifically considered the function of soundproofing. Normally, normal noises wouldn't be able to reach Reynolds's room. Of course, this was prepared for a good night's sleep. How could he fall asleep if it was too noisy? Especially when Natalia, who he didn't know why she was always so energetic, was here. Hey, can you guys be quieter? I was just about to fall asleep. Reynolds helplessly rubbed his hair as he walked up the stairs to the second floor. But suddenly, at the corner of the stairs, a white object flew over. Ah! Creak! Chapter 646. The shiny white thing flew over at an unbelievable speed. Reynolds happened to catch up with the blinking process, so he didn't notice anything flying over. Bang! With a thud, the thing rolled down to the first floor with Reynolds. Ouch, ouch, ouch! Reynolds grabbed the thing that was stuck to his face and lifted it in the air with his right hand. It was caused by Abai. Abai! Just as Reynolds was about to get angry, Abai hurriedly interrupted. You Reynolds, hurry up! Natalia and Gio are fighting. What? Reynolds quickly ran to the second floor and saw that the two of them had already fought for a few rounds. The books on the bookshelves didn't escape the destruction of Gio's fire magic. Even the walls had a few terrifying scratches. It was impossible for Iwina to win against Gio. Even with Iwina's help, Natalia was only a magic trainee in terms of magic power. Gio, on the other hand, was a demon sent by Reynolds as a spy in the human world. Her strength couldn't be weak. She had already reached the rank of Archmage. Reynolds looked at the situation. Iwina was holding Iwina with both hands and facing Gio. Beads of sweat dripped down her forehead. There were a few small scratches on her clothes, but she wasn't injured. Although Reynolds didn't know why the two of them suddenly started fighting, he understood Gio's words very well. Since Gio didn't intend to be ruthless, he could use this opportunity to provoke Natalia. Descent of the fire demon god, the giant is born. Heaven and earth, all things coexist. The cycle of reincarnation is endless. Life and death depend on each other. Greed is the number one in human nature. Purify all things. Destroy the world. The two of them chanted at the same time. Two bright red magic formations opened under their feet. Strands of fire filled the entire room. Bang! The magic formation under Gio's feet suddenly rose up, and a dark demon appeared behind her. It was about 5 meters tall, and the floor of the second floor seemed to be unable to bear the weight of this demon. The floor made cracking sounds from time to time, and the demon's eyes were emitting a dense fire. There were even streams of fire that constantly wandered around its body. Boom! There was another boom. Hot lava began to flow out of the magic formation that Natalia cast. Suddenly, there was an angry roar. A huge arm stretched out of the magic formation. Then another arm, then a head, a body. The giant's body was covered in hot lava. Some book fragments and wooden materials could be seen vaguely. My book. From afar, Reynolds saw a book with the words, Economic Theory, written on it being rolled into the lava giant's feet. This was the only pornographic book that he had ever bought with Economic Theory as its cover. At that time, he didn't know what a pornographic book was. He had only heard about it from others, so he simply bought one. He didn't expect it to be such a vulgar thing. Yes, very vulgar. My book. Whoa. Just like that, the two behemoths confronted each other, constantly roaring at each other. Roar! In fact, Reynolds already knew who would win. Natalia. She's grown up. Reynolds thought of the last time when Natalia used the lava giant in the academy. Her magical power wasn't enough to support the giant for a long time. However, now that Natalia could control it with ease, he felt relieved. Roar! Ah! The two giants raised their fists and collided. The unimaginable impact brought about a hurricane. Many leaves were blown off the surrounding trees. The magma giant seemed to be at a disadvantage. It was pushed back several steps by the dark demon's power. The magma giant let out a furious roar and charged at the dark demon, grabbing his wrist. With a violent turn and a lift of its shoulder, the lava giant actually used a move similar to a shoulder throw, throwing the dark demon out of the house. Swoosh! The dark demon slid far away. None of the ancient trees he passed by survived. They were all turned into a pile of debris. The lava giant jumped down from the second floor. Its weight of several thousand tons made the ground tremble. The dark demon got up from the ground. He raised his right hand. In an instant, the fiery thread-like things around him quickly gathered in his palm. He then swung it with all his strength. A dark golden spear appeared in his hand. "How is this possible?" Natalia shouted. Just like the lava giant, the dark demonic man also arrived in front of the lava giant in a few steps. It swung its right hand downward and a dark red flame shot out. Unfortunately, the lava giant dodged it. Now, at this moment, the dark demon struck the lava giant's abdomen with his left hand. Suddenly, the lava giant seemed to be stuck for a moment. This was because the core of its magic array had been hit, causing it to temporarily short-circuit. "It's over." The dark demonkin swung its spear, spinning it 360 degrees in the air before stabbing it into the lava giant's chest. The lava giant's core magic array shattered, and the lava giant transformed into fire-type mana particles that dissipated into the air. "How is it? Hurry up and hand over Avina. Dream on. It's not over yet." Although the lava giant had been defeated, this didn't mean that Natalia had lost. Fluttering silver feathers, entrusted with the thoughts of the heart. There will always be people who seek the other side of the dream. Spread your wings, wings of heaven. Natalia kept moving on the second floor while chanting the spell, Wings of Heaven. Whoosh! The wings of heaven spread out behind Natalia. Countless white feathers fluttered in the air. It was as if an angel had descended. Suddenly, Natalia jumped back and flew out of the house. Could it be? Reynolds used an invisibility spell to observe from the air. He could clearly see Natalia rushing towards the dark demon with Avina. Idiot! Natalia knew very well that as long as she could defeat the dark demonic summoner, she would win without a fight. However, her pride would not allow such a thing to happen. Natalia, who had always been arrogant, had tasted the taste of defeat ever since she met Reynolds. Chapter 647. The dark demonic person was a creature that Avina summoned using magic, but the dark demonic person was not under Avina's control. In other words, even if Avina wanted to go easy on the dark demonic person, she would not be able to do so. Interesting. Let me see just how strong your self-esteem is, Avina said with an evil smile on her face. Right now, Reynolds already had the intention to make a move. Magic does not open one's eyes. What if the dark demonic person injures Natalia? That spear has the effect of absorbing life force. However, just when Reynolds was in a dilemma, he saw the determination in Natalia's eyes. Natalia's light orange eyes were actually shining so brightly at this moment. She's smiling. Reynolds suddenly slapped himself. At this moment, Reynolds saw Natalia's lips curling upwards. Ha, Reynolds, you actually still do not trust your own student. Bah. Reynolds suddenly slapped himself fiercely. This was his own punishment for not trusting his student. Ha. Natalia held onto Avina with her right hand and quickly rushed towards the dark demonic person. Although the dark demonic person's appearance was very oppressive, to the point that Natalia was somewhat unable to breathe, her footsteps still did not stop. The dark demonic person sensed an extraordinary magic power rushing towards its direction. Immediately, it glanced sideways and shot a spear towards Natalia's direction. Walala! Another red flame rushed over, blasting a hole in the path in front of Natalia. Fortunately, she dodged quickly just now, otherwise she would definitely be heavily injured right now. The explosion of the flame caused the dark demonic person to lose sight of Natalia. Rushing up like this is definitely not going to work. There must be a way. Natalia's brain was working very quickly, and she finally thought of a way. Natalia adjusted the light emitted by the celestial wings to the lowest, then turned around and descended, no longer using the method of flying to advance. She jumped onto the crown of the nearest tree, using the luxuriant branches and leaves to conceal her figure. Swoosh! 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 Natalia jumped from tree to tree at a speed that was hard to catch with the naked eye. Smart. This way, the enemy will be in the light while we are in the dark. The dark demonic man stood in place, looking everywhere for that manna, but he couldn't find it after it entered the forest. Hey! Suddenly, Natalia jumped out from a tree right in front of the dark demons, her celestial wings blossoming with their greatest radiance. Ah! The dark demon shouted as if he was dazzled. At this moment, he was rubbing his eyes with his left hand. Take this! Natalia used the celestial wings to arrive at the dark demon's abdomen. She raised a vina high above her head and chopped down with both hands. A vina cut through the air with an ear-piercing sound, leaving a half-meter-long scar on the dark demon's abdomen. Heavens, it's actually so sharp! Natalia was also shocked by Avina's sharpness. When she chopped at the dark demon, it felt as if she was chopping at a piece of tofu. There was no resistance at all. Roar! The dark demon roared fiercely after being hit in the abdomen. It seemed to be in great danger, but fortunately, it had already locked onto Natalia's mana. No matter where Natalia escaped to, it would be able to sense her position. Not good! The dark demon swung its spear at Natalia, but the movement was too big and she dodged it. Condensed blazing heat, transforming into endless flames. Sometimes incomparably ferocious, swallowing the sky and destroying the sun. Sometimes as cold as ice, covering the sky and covering the sun. Explode, ice flames spike. Natalia chanted an incantation. At the same time, many dark blue magic circles appeared above the dark demon's head. They kept spinning, and finally, after Natalia finished chanting the last word, 7 to 8 arm-thick ice spikes extended from each magic circle. Whoosh! 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 Under Natalia's command, all the ice spikes were aimed at the dark demon, and then they fiercely smashed into its body like water droplets. Perhaps an icicle the size of a human arm wouldn't hurt or itch due to the size of a dark demon, but the number of icicles was endless like water droplets. At least 7 or 8 icicles pierced the same spot. Soon, many holes appeared on the dark demon's body. From afar, it looked a bit like a beehive. If someone with trypophobia saw this, they would definitely be disgusted. Finally, all the icicles had been released, but the dark demon was still standing on the spot, not moving at all. Is it dead? This thought popped up in Natalia's mind. But in the next moment, she firmly denied this answer. Because Natalia saw that every wound on the dark demon's body was wriggling. Although it was very weak, she could still detect it. That's right, we dark demons have the ability to heal ourselves, Avina said proudly from the second floor. In the corner of her eye, she saw Reynolds floating in the sky. Reynolds had cast a relatively low-level invisibility spell, so it wasn't difficult for a magus like Avina to see through it. Could it be that Avina was really given to her by Reynolds? Watch me. In order not to give the dark demon any time to breathe, Natalia actually charged straight at it. This idiot. Just as Natalia was close to the dark demon's originally tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. Not good, I fell for it. The raging flames in the dark demon's eyes compressed into a line and shot towards Natalia. You can't dodge it. The high-pressure fire ray pierced through Natalia's abdomen, and a very obvious hole appeared in her stomach. Near it, there were some already charred black pieces of flesh, and blood oozed out uncontrollably. Am I going to die? Her consciousness gradually blurred, and the celestial wings on her back were also slightly charred by the flames. Without the continuous supply of magic, Natalia had lost her ability to fly, and she rapidly fell from the sky to the ground. Reynolds, you have to believe in your student. She's the saintess. At this moment, Reynolds kept telling himself to have faith in his student. If they could win this battle, it would be a huge change for Natalia. I don't want to die yet. I haven't taken my revenge yet. I want to kill all the demons to avenge my parents. I haven't eaten all the food in the world yet. In her hazy consciousness, Natalia seemed to have seen a very magical scene. It was once again in the classroom of Dream Shoe Magic Academy. Reynolds was still making things difficult for her, Avina was secretly giving her hints, and Natalia was sitting in the last row looking at the textbook on the table. Chapter 648. Vaguely, Natalia seemed to hear a voice calling out to her in the darkness. The voice was very familiar, and sounded exactly like her own voice. Who are you? I am you. I grant you power. Do you need it? I do. Suddenly, with a bang, Natalia opened her eyes. All the visible wood elemental magic particles in the forest gathered towards Natalia and slowly seeped into her body. The flesh on her abdomen also rapidly regenerated, and almost in an instant, the big hole was healed. Her entire body was emitting a dark green light, and she looked like a goddess of the forest. Her lower abdomen, which was exposed due to her torn clothes, was now very smooth. The layers of her muscles were just right, and one could almost see the faintly discernible mermaid line. Boom! In the center of Natalia's collarbone, there was a diamond-shaped mark. Under the stimulation of the wood elemental magic, it actually moved along her arm to the center of Avina's sword hilt. Avina let out a violent vibration, as if she was excited about something. Buzz! Avina's sword blade turned dark green, and there were constantly white light patterns pulsing on it, emitting a strong aura of nature. Immediately after, the celestial wings on Natalia's back also recovered their vitality. With a whoosh, they spread out in the air, and the originally slightly charred wings were dyed a faint green, looking even more fluffy and soft. The vitality of nature is endless, caressing all things on the surface of the earth, nourishing miracles and hope. The distant horizon, the adventure will never stop. Although the chapter has ended, our story will never stop. Senro Vines. Natalia floated in front of the dark demon, her red lips lightly moving up and down as she chanted incantations. The spirit of the words floated in the air, echoing in the forest. As soon as the incantation was finished, the ground began to rumble. Huge black vines broke out of the ground one after another. The vines were like poisonous snakes as they tightly coiled around the dark demon's 4 limbs, making him look like a dumpling and unable to move. The dark demon seemed to have sensed some danger, and instantly became frantic. The long spear once again turned into a stream of fire and returned to its side, clinging onto the black vines, trying to use the flames to burn away the vines that were binding it. Roar! Unfortunately, the more the flames burned, the tighter the vines wrapped around the dark demon's body. There was a series of discordant cracking sounds coming from the dark demon's body, probably because its bones were already dislocated. Avina gathered all her magic on the hexapod wings, and the wings became bigger and bigger, and soon, they had already reached 2 meters in length. Right now, Ai Wayna, who was holding the 6 immortal wings, looked a little funny. Looking at the difference in size, it felt as if Ai Wayna was being held by the 6 immortal wings. Avina single-handedly held the hexapod wings behind her back, then fiercely slashed with all her strength. A green sword chi that seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth rushed towards the dark demon while sticking close to the ground. Finally, when the green sword chi got close to the dark demon let out a miserable cry, and the green sword chi directly split it into 2 from the middle. After the dark demon's life force was completely gone, the black vines that were wrapping around its body also slowly retracted back into the ground, and the 2 halves of the dark demon's body fell to the ground, turning into fire elemental magic particles that filled the sky and disappeared. I won. After being pleasantly surprised, Avina felt an extremely strong dizziness in her head, and right after, her body seemed to have lost all strength, and she could not feel the existence of anything. Avina! Reynolds appeared, and with a leap, he caught Avina, who was in a daze. "You idiot! You're finally here. Hey, don't call me an idiot at a time like this." Before she could finish her words, Avina fell into Reynolds's embrace. "Well done, Avina." After the battle, the scene was a mess, and this scene was comparable to the scene in Hope Village. Reynolds had no choice but to use magic to restore the house to its original state. As for the destroyed forest, Reynolds had his own plans. After that, Reynolds called Avina to his room and learned about the ins and outs of the matter. It turned out that Avina had seen the 6 wings in Avina's hand, and suspected that Avina had secretly taken the sword away from Reynolds. Therefore, Avina wanted to take the sword back, but Avina refused. The two of them then started to fight. "Hey you! Even if you want the sword, you don't have to fight." But that sword was indeed given to Avina by me. Hearing this, Avina became a little unhappy. "Reynolds, how could you give the 6 wings to that little brat? That sword was a part of the human emperor's armor that you took back from the saintess of the human race. You still don't understand. Avina's affinity with nature, you mean? Avina is the reincarnation of the saintess?" "Yes." Reynolds nodded. The next day, Avina was full of energy again. She ate 2 meals for breakfast, and the Apollo's belt that was faintly visible thanks to the wood element magic particles disappeared again. After breakfast, Reynolds forcefully dragged Avina out of the room. "Apologize now." Therefore, under Reynolds's threat, the two of them had to apologize to each other and promise that they would not fight like this again. In Avina's opinion, Avina actually did not want to apologize to her. But he didn't expect Aina to apologize to him so quickly. "It can't be helped. I'm sorry." Aina pouted and said with a proud face. At this moment, Avina felt something touch her shoulder. She looked up and found that Avina was looking at her with a trace of pity in her eyes. "Hey, why do you look at me like that? Why do I feel so pitiful?" Avina patted Avina's shoulder. "It's not easy for you either. What's wrong?" As a punishment, Reynolds punished the two of them to replant all the destroyed trees. They had to do it with their bodies, and were not allowed to rely on magic power. Although they had put up a meaningless resistance, Reynolds's words, "Think about how painful it was when these trees fell down," made the two of them feel a trace of guilt. There were still 3 days before they set off for Dingqing, the location of the 7 schools competition. It should be enough time for them to replant these trees. Chapter 649. After the battle with the Dark Demon, Reynolds felt that Avina's strength should be able to deal with the 7 school leap. At the very least, it wouldn't be a problem for her to enter the top 3. As for Natalia, she seemed to have seen Avina's great improvement and immediately put in more effort. Thus, Reynolds gave her some knowledge in magic. As for what it was exactly, it would be revealed during the 7 school leap. Natalia seemed to be rushing directly from her home to Dingqing. After all, her home was closer to Dingqing. Thus, on this day, Reynolds suddenly discovered an unexpected crisis. A naming crisis. According to the requirements, the participating teams would definitely use a team name as a codename. I think the team name Fried Chicken and Burgers is very good. No. When it comes to eating, I still think Fried Skewers and Barbecue Drinks is more suitable. In the morning, it was time for the regular meeting again. Usually, Reynolds would discuss some topics with Avina, Natalia, and Avina during breakfast. As for Natalia's opinion, it wouldn't be too late to ask her later. "The names you guys came up with are too unpleasant. How can you use these names?" Reynolds put his hands on his hips and puffed out his chest. "Avina, don't you know that fried chicken and burgers are not to be eaten too much? Oh, and Avina, how can you still fool around like these little brats? Boo-hoo, as for the team name, I think Reynolds is the most handsome man in the world is good. In your dreams." "Okay." Avina gave different reactions. At this moment, Natalia, who had been eating silently, gave a suggestion. Blue Enchantress, what do you think? Natalia said carefully, afraid that everyone wouldn't like the name. Because our school's logo is a blue spider lily. I think this is pretty good. Yes, it's slightly better than my Reynolds is the most handsome man in the world. Avina seemed to still insist on her unique way of thinking. No, I still think fries and fried chicken burger sounds better. If that's the case, I'll stick to my team name of Renault is the most handsome man in the world. Fried skewers and barbecue drinks sounds better. On this day, the four of them completely wasted their time. They didn't do anything at all. They just sat at the table and discussed the team name. After breakfast, they began to discuss and argue. When they came back to their senses, it was time for lunch. Then, they argued again. When they came back to their senses again, it was already night time. Later, he asked Natalia about it. Over there, a new team name popped up. It was called Lovelorn Girls. Later on, the five of them took 2 words from the team name that they came up with. So it became Blue Reynolds loves the little temptress who drinks and eats fries. Hey, what the hell is this? How did I become the subject? How about the little temptress who drinks and eats fries loves the Blue Reynolds? Hey, why do I have to hate the blue color? And can't you change the attribution for the little temptress? The little temptress who likes to eat must be a fat woman, all right? You have too many requests. Be careful, the author might write you to death. I'm sorry. Just like this, the team name of Dream Shoe Magic Academy was taken down. The last hope. Time passed like flowing water. Soon, Renault and his team arrived. It was time to set off for Dingqing. During this period of time, a lot of things had happened. The tragedy in Cheyenne Village, the big spider incident, Alice's parents beside the underground stone door. This house built by Renault really bore the burden of the recent memories. Everyone struggled together here and encountered some unforgettable things. Suddenly, they said that they were going to leave here. It was really a little, so happy. Finally we can go. The food here is really disgusting. Tizia stretched her body and complained. It's good enough to have these things to eat. Otherwise, give me back all my drumsticks. Humph. I'll spit it out for you. Do you want it? After a night of tidying up, everyone had already packed their luggage. According to the original plan, the carriage should have arrived at 9 a.m. today. However, for some reason, the carriage did not come. How dare this hateful coachman ask me for 2 extra copper coins? Perhaps Renault and the coachman had a falling out. Helplessly, they could only find another way to get to Dingqing. What? Let's go to Dingqing! Avina roared. Yes. Teacher, I think this method is indeed a little. Alice said weakly. But, it's very tiring for me to bring so many people to Dingqing. Renault said a little unwillingly. At this moment, Tizia had an idea. She rolled her eyes and said, Sigh, it seems that we have to wait for a long time before we can eat the delicious food in Dingqing. As she said that, Tizia squinted her eyes and glanced at Renault to see his reaction. Phew. Renault's ears twitched. Obviously, he was shaken after hearing Tizia's words. Food? Tiring? That's a problem. In that case, I've roughly calculated the time just now. Renault changed the topic. If we walk there, it's probably difficult to arrive on the stipulated date. At that time, there should be a lot of trouble. So, let me teleport there with you. Humph. I got my way. Just when Renault was about to put everyone's luggage into his black disc, Alice suddenly said something. Teacher Renault, let me do it. Renault didn't understand what was going on at first. Suddenly, he saw the luggage in his hand and suddenly understood. Yes. Renault took back the summoned black disc. Black is the beginning of all things, and also the name of ether. The night sky is black, and it wraps the universe. The human heart is black, and no one knows where it is. All the places where the sun can't find are dark. Black hole. As Alice finished chanting the spell, a black circle the size of a palm appeared in her palm, and then slowly became the size of a human head. The edge of the circle was a little illusory, and it was even shrinking constantly. It seemed that this was the limit of what Alice could perform. Renaud didn't say much. While Alice was struggling to hold on, he put all the luggage in. Chapter 650. There weren't any big items, only some clothes that were necessary for traveling and cultivation. 4 large items like beds and other inconvenient items. Reynolds would just create them out of the blue. When everyone was ready, they said goodbye to the small wooden house that they had lived in for a while. Space jump. They disappeared. He had a vague premonition that this house built in the forest would come in handy in the future. Forget it, let's not think about it. Let's go. Let's start our 7 schools jump. As mentioned before, Dingxing City was the largest city in the eastern region of the human realm. In terms of prosperity and territory, it was far more prosperous than Styganti. A long time ago, a ferocious fire dragon came to this place and brought endless fear and disaster to the people at that time. The flames that the fire dragon spat out could stretch for thousands of miles. Its scales were invulnerable, and its claws and teeth were indestructible. It was said that even S-level magic could only cause it a little pain. The crops couldn't grow in the high temperature, and the Lord never received any response to the rescue signal that he sent out. At that time, it was the peak of the battle between the human race and the demon race. The king also ordered many soldiers to leave this place. The people lived in vain, and only a few old people stayed, waiting for Azrael's arrival. Just when they thought they had been abandoned by the heavens, a brave warrior with a holy sword and platinum-colored armor stood up. She fought with the fire dragon for more than 10 days. Finally, with her strong willpower, she killed the fire dragon and brought hope to the people. After the fire dragon died, the remaining dragon ball in its body was taken away by the Lord, and its energy was used to rebuild Dingxing. It was because of this that the city was named after the word "yi," which was formed by 4 flames. Later, Dingxing grew stronger and stronger, and finally developed into the largest city in the eastern region. Somewhere in Dingxing, bang! A white magic array appeared on the shabby bluestone brick. Then, one after another, people came out from inside. We're here. I didn't feel anything exciting. Hey, do you think this is a roller coaster? What is a roller coaster? This group of people was, of course, Reynolds and his men who had jumped over from the forest. At this moment, Reynolds had turned back into a robust middle-aged uncle. After all, this city had gathered human experts from all walks of life. Just in case, Reynolds had added an even sturdier barrier to Jiuan himself. No one would be able to discover them, including Grand Magi. The preset location of the space jump was a very inconspicuous alley. There was no one here, so naturally, the sudden appearance of 4 people and 1 rabbit would not cause a commotion. In fact, Avina had already arrived at Pengcheng the day before. He had asked Avina to mark this place so that it would be easier for him to teleport here. Long time no see, everyone. Yo, Avina, long time no see. Did you miss me? Turning around, there was an extremely beautiful girl with short, dark purple hair standing there, 3,000 Arwina. Tizia felt that Avina was a little different from usual, but she couldn't put her finger on it. After a while, she combined it with the word cultivation and finally got the answer. Avina, your eyes. Reynolds had given Avina a spell to hide her heterochromatic pupils. Through this spell, Avina could perfectly hide the color of her eyes. Without the enhancement of her heterochromatic pupils, Avina's eyes had turned into a faint gray color. She had lost her usual inviolable aura and was more approachable. It was very pleasing to the eye. It's all thanks to Teacher Reynolds. Avina stuck out her tongue and said mischievously. Reynolds looked at everyone and found that Tizia also felt a little different from half a month ago. At the same time, there was an indescribable feeling. It felt like she had become much more noble. As for Alice, she seemed to be more cheerful. It was probably because she had become more familiar with everyone in the past half a month and treated everyone as her friends or even family. In terms of strength, Avina could also see through her heterochromatic pupils that Alice's magical power had increased by more than one level. She was a trustworthy teammate. Got fatter because of the delicious food every day. Reynolds had turned into a middle-aged tree. Other than that, he didn't change much. Oh, this is? Avina saw Gio standing beside Reynolds. Wow, such a beautiful figure, such a beautiful face. Red hair and red eyes. Avina suddenly felt the pressure of competition. Hello, my name is Gio. I'm Reynolds' younger sister. Oh, so she's his younger sister. That's good. That's good. No one knew what Avina was thinking. Hello, my name is Avina 3000. I'm Reynolds' student. Oh, so you're Avina. I see. Gio looked at Avina from head to toe. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at Reynolds. Ha ha ha. Reynolds touched his head helplessly. He seemed to know what Gio was thinking. Then let's hurry to the registration office. If we're late, they'll be closed. When they walked out of the alley, they saw that the city wasn't as luxurious as they had imagined. In fact, it was dilapidated. The buildings were all very simple and crude. Walls could be seen everywhere in the corners. Occasionally, a gust of wind would blow over. When the wind passed through the potholes that were not designed properly, it would make some strange sound. It sounded like a haunted place. Opposite them was a street that led directly to the bustling area. To put it bluntly, the place where Reynolds and the others were now was similar to the slums of Xing City. No matter which human city they were in, the slums were at least several times larger than the bustling areas. The number of poor people living here was more than 100 times more than the rich, but the wealth in their hands was less than 1,000th of the wealth of the upper class. What a terrible gap between the rich and the poor! Looking from afar, there weren't many people on the street. Occasionally, one or two women who were in a hurry to buy groceries would appear. They wore very thin clothes and had circles of headscarves on their heads. They walked very quickly. When they saw Reynolds and the others passing by, they immediately bowed to show their respect. After Reynolds and the others left, they stood up and walked away. Chapter 651. What are they doing? Avina asked in confusion. They're afraid of Brother Reynolds. What's going on? Avina was also a little curious. How could you rich young ladies know about all this? The people in the slums have the lowest status in the human world. Any aristocrat can take their lives at any time. Avina explained. Natalia should know about this better, right? Natalia nodded and continued. Recently, the 7-school leap competition in Dingxing has attracted many distinguished people from the eastern region to visit. They wear scarves around their heads because they're afraid of those people. After all, some of the good-looking servants in the aristocratic families were brought over from the slums. Some people with special hobbies even catch little girls to do some dirty things. That's why there are so few people on the street. Natalia's explanation made Avina and Avina a little angry. They had lived in a comfortable environment before and had never heard of such things. Even Avina didn't have such a difference in status when she was in Hope Village, let alone a noble lady like Avina. What a beast! It was the first time Reynolds had heard Avina swear. Alright, you'll get used to it after seeing so many of these things. Let's hurry up and report. When they came to the city from the slums, the surrounding scenery instantly became taller. There were all kinds of tall buildings around, and the streets were densely packed like a ball of yarn. It was easy to get lost in Dingxing. The reporting place for the 7-school leap competition this time was called Gaia Competition Hall. It was said that this Gaia competition hall was specially built for the 7-school leap competition this time. Some magic gold was mixed into the building materials, so it was definitely the best place for the contestants to show off their skills. By the way, although the sacred sword dance sacrificial ceremony in the eastern region was called 7-school leap competition, there were actually more than 7 teams participating. The 7 here only referred to the teams that had a chance of winning the championship. We're here. We're here. That's where we'll be reporting to Gaia Hall. From afar, everyone could see a huge white object sitting in front of them. It was inlaid with some rose-colored gemstones. The entire building was rectangular in shape, and at each of the 4 corners were 4 metal wires that connected to the ground. On those metal wires hung the badges of the participating teams. It looked very imposing. Avina looked around. She was surrounded by rich people in luxurious clothes and nobles with scepters in their hands. Occasionally, she would pass by people of the same age wearing the clothes of other academies. They should be the other contestants. According to the rules, people from the slums were not allowed to enter within 10,000 meters of the Gaia Hall. How could this be? Let's go. In front of him was a flight of stairs made of white translucent jade. These stairs led directly to the Gaia competition hall. Uncle Wu and Aunt Jing usually live frugally, but these people actually. Avina was very dissatisfied with the actions of the Lord of Dingqing City. For the sake of a competition, they actually spent so many resources to maintain a so-called scene. It was too corrupt. After climbing up the stairs, a dense crowd appeared in their line of sight. Most of them were contestants, and at this moment, they were accompanied by their leading teachers to discuss countermeasures for the upcoming competition. Look, those clothes. It's said that their contestants this year are unusually strong. Look at that black-haired one. Her name is Natalia. I heard that she can use necromancy. What? Necromancy? Isn't that an ancient magic that is said to have been lost? That's not all. 3,000 Avina, the daughter of the 3,000 aristocratic families. It's said that she has mastered water magic. And that one, Lamy Avina. It's said that she can use wind magic and swordsmanship at the same time. Wow! Obviously, the arrival of Reynolds and the others was like a stone that stirred up thousands of waves. Instantly, the square outside the Gaia competition hall exploded. Phew, this feels good. Reynolds seemed to enjoy the feeling of being the center of attention. He always felt that he was very powerful. Hey, control your wretched expression. The main characters this time are your students. Abai leaned on Reynolds's shoulder and said softly, I know. At this moment, there was a burst of shouting from afar. Avina, long time no see. Not far from Reynolds, a handsome man with blonde hair and blue eyes walked over and greeted Avina. Vacillate Fong, how many times have I told you? Please call me Avina or Avina. You make me sick. Oh, Avina, don't you know how I feel about you? Please stay away from me. Don't let others have unnecessary misunderstandings. When talking about others, Avina subconsciously glanced at Reynolds. Although this movement could not be more subtle, it was still caught by this so-called vacillate Fong. Hey, who are you? I'm warning you to stay away from our families, Avina. Vacillate Fong ran to Reynolds, who was in his uncle form, and questioned him. Hey, you're a bit arrogant. How dare you talk to me like that? Reynolds did not back down and directly looked at Vacillate Fong. You very well. Do you know who I am? I'm the eldest son of the second-class noble Vacillate family. Hey, so what? In Reynolds's eyes, this young man was a bit too arrogant. Usually, he was the one who bullied others. This time, he was the one who was being bullied. This was intolerable, and he dared to provoke his dearest student. Okay, just you wait. Vacillate Fong took a few steps back and glanced at the team in front of him. Avina, wait for me. Our team will definitely win the final championship. Then I'll ask His Majesty to let you be my wife. I'll love you dearly. Vasilet Fong licked his tongue as he spoke. His eyes seemed to be filled with endless desire. So many beauties, they're all mine. When he left, he turned back to look at Reynolds. He was probably trying to intimidate him. Unfortunately, it did not seem to have any effect. Chapter 652. Reynolds looked at Vasilet Feng's back and habitually put his index finger on his chin. No one knew what he was thinking. Hua Kai, who is that guy? That guy is called Vasilet Feng. He is the eldest son of the second-class noble Vasilet family. He is also one of the contestants of the Wind Magic Academy. When I was young, he kept pestering me at a party. It was so annoying. Wind Magic Academy, what about that person? He's okay. He's quite enthusiastic. But I don't know why I dislike him. Hua Kai suddenly thought of something. Teacher, don't misunderstand. I really have nothing to do with him. You have to believe me. Ha ha, of course I know. Reynolds touched Hua Kai's head. Hua Kai's face suddenly turned red. Wind Magic Academy was also one of the popular contestants of the 7-school jumping competition. Its overall strength was not weak. Damn it, that guy actually dared to do that to my Hua Kai. At this moment, Vasilet was hiding in a corner and secretly watching Reynolds and the others. And those beauties, especially the red-haired one, I like her too much. Let's wait and see. Hee hee, all of you will be mine in the battle on the isolated island. Vasilet seemed to have seen Renaud glance in his direction as he secretly recited the words. Does he know that I'm here? Sun Mengshu Magic Academy was one of the popular contestants of the championship. Its popularity was no less than Campfire Sky Magic Academy and Bright Dragon Sky Roar Magic Academy. Hello, please show me the Academy's certificate. Oh, okay, please wait a moment. According to the procedure, the teacher leading the team needed to show the certificate given by the Academy. Otherwise, some people who wanted to fish in troubled waters would be involved. That would be bad. Therefore, Reynolds searched in his black disk for a long time. Just as he was searching, suddenly, 4 people came and bumped into Reynolds. Hey, watch where you're going. Reynolds picked up the certificate that fell on the ground. It was a blue letter with the Academy's badge. Those who bumped into Reynolds didn't seem to hear his voice. They directly ignored him and handed the invitation letter to the service staff. After hurriedly going through the procedures, they left in a hurry. They didn't say a word in the middle, giving people a very cold feeling. What? It's so annoying to be so arrogant. Avina pouted and said with some dissatisfaction. Why are the beasts here? Reynolds could clearly sense the unique aura of the beast race from the 3 of them. Avina seemed to have also sensed the aura of the beasts, and she looked at Reynolds with a puzzled expression. Shh. Avina understood what Reynolds meant. There were too many people here, and it was indeed not suitable to discuss such a sensitive topic. Hi, may I ask who those people are? Oh, those are the contestants from Wild Motion Magic Academy. Idong Magic Academy? I've never heard of it before. Yes, this is a magic academy that was just established a few months ago. Okay, thank you. After a simple conversation with the service staff, Reynolds immediately handed the proof of the academy in his hand to the person. The service staff's attitude and work efficiency were very good. Not only did he not complain about Reynolds's continuous questioning, he even explained to him one by one. The service staff took the blue envelope from Reynolds's hand, opened it, and took out a white piece of paper. He raised his head and looked at the few people in front of him. After confirming that their appearance matched the information on the paper, he slowly said, Hello, you are the representative team of Raimengshu Magic Academy. The transfer ceremony for the 7 schools competition will be held in the center of Gaia Hall in 7 days. At that time, all the teams will be transferred to an uninhabited island to compete for a week. The last 3 teams will be qualified to participate in the Sacred Sword Dance Festival. After that, these teams will compete for first, second, and third place in Gaia Hall. Please wait at the entrance of Gaia Hall at noon a week later. There will be relevant personnel to guide you. Do you have any other questions? No. Then I wish you all the best. After coming out of Gaia Hall, the next step for Reynolds and the others was to find a place to stay. Although Pengcheng had prepared accommodation for all the contestants, most of the contestants would live together. In other words, the officials would rent out some hotels for the contestants to stay in. However, in that case they would face the crisis of information being leaked. After all, every team now wanted to thoroughly study their competitors as soon as possible, including Rimingshu Magic Academy, Canal Fire Magic Academy, and Bright Dragon Tianshao Magic Academy. Therefore, in order to avoid more information being leaked, Reynolds did not intend to bring Avina and the others to stay in the hotels provided by the officials. However, there were many people who had the same idea as Reynolds and the others, so almost all the hotels now showed signs of being full. After asking around 7 or 8 streets, they still could not find a place to stay. Could it be that I, the great demon king, have fallen to the point of wandering on the streets? The problem of accommodation could not be solved first. If there was no other way, they could use space jump to return to the small wooden house in the forest and stay for a few days. They would come back a week later. Now, the most important thing to solve should be the problem of food. That's right, it was already around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but everyone had been busy with the procedures of the 7 schools jump and did not think about eating at all. Sure enough, when people are idle, it's easy to feel hungry. No, it's a demon. Reynolds then sighed. Am I so hungry that I'm complaining about myself? Reynolds looked at the street. Every type of food was priced at a price he couldn't afford. Due to the increasing number of big shots, these hawkers had raised their prices many times over. Even the cheapest bowl of noodles cost a silver coin. At this moment, Reynolds suddenly heard a strange sound. Sniff, sniff. Sniff, sniff. Reynolds looked down and found that there was a child next to his left foot sniffing his smell with his nose. It was a little boy, quite fat. Chubby? Reynolds had a deep impression of this child. Previously in Wildflower Village, in order to prepare carrots for Abai, Reynolds used a small piece of magic gold to trade with a hawker. It was at this time that Chubby jumped out and told Reynolds that the deal was not fair at all. Chapter 653. In this era where people's hearts were sinister, Liliana left a deep impression on Reynolds like a clear stream. Uncle, I think I've smelled your scent somewhere before. Liliana, why are you here? Liliana raised her head in confusion. Uncle, how do you know my nickname is Liliana? Reynolds squatted down and instantly removed his uncle's appearance, then changed back to his original appearance in an instant. He didn't attract anyone's attention at all. You're the person I met in Wildflower Village. Oh, I didn't expect you to still remember me. Yes, you're very handsome, so I remembered you. That's called handsome. Let's not talk about this first. Why are you here? Why aren't you licking your candied haws in Wildflower Village? What are you doing in Dingcheng? I'm here to help my father. He said that a lot of people have been staying in the hotel recently, so he called me over to help manage it. What a cute child. Let me hug you. Avina walked to Liliana, squatted down, and gently hugged Liliana as if she was holding a pet. Liliana's shoulder rubbed against Avina's soft chest, and her face instantly flushed red. She breathed out hot air from her nose, and a wretched expression of happiness appeared on her face. This was the most straightforward definition that Avina, Natalia, and Abai gave Liliana in an instant. Your family runs a hotel in Dingcheng? Reynolds asked in surprise. Yes. Actually, I'm leading the team from Dream Shoe Magic Academy. Do you have a place to stay? Can your family take us in? Just like that, Liliana led Reynolds and the others to the hotel run by her family. The hotel wasn't far from here, and they arrived after a few turns. Otherwise, his parents wouldn't have let Liliana go so far alone. Standing in front of the hotel, everyone realized how naive their previous idea was. The floor was made of stone, the walls were painted with ordinary white paint, and the bed was a very standard model. This was completely an ordinary hotel that couldn't be more ordinary. Oh, I was actually full of expectations for this hotel just a second ago. Reynolds complained in his heart. Hey, don't look at our hotel like that. This is a special time. No matter how ordinary, shabby, or unsightly a hotel is still a precious resource. Just then, bang! A heavy punch came from the side and hit Liliana on the head. A very obvious bulge appeared on his chest. Poof! Poof! Stinking brat, how dare you talk about your family's hotel like that? The one who spoke was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s. His appearance was very ordinary, and his body was neither fat nor thin. His height was also very average. He belonged to the type that could not be found at all if thrown into a crowd. Dad, it hurts. Liliana raised her small hand to cover the bulge on her head. That look, coupled with the trembling fat all over her body, was extremely funny. What are they? Liliana's father suddenly noticed the presence of Renault's group. Hello, Uncle. We are the representative team of the Sun Mengshu Magic Academy and also Liliana's friends. I wonder if there are any extra rooms in your house for us to stay in? Reynolds walked forward to speak. This guy always pretended to be serious in front of outsiders. Alas, although it's a little shabby, I'll make do with it. After all, a house was just a place to shelter from the wind and rain. Reynolds did not have a so-called family, so he did not need the role of a heartwarming harbor. As for food, it should be barely enough for him to get some from Avina. As for Humph, how could there be anything comparable to our Abai's soft body? Oh, I suddenly have a bad premonition. Abai shuddered. Why did I feel that Reynolds was staring at me with bad intentions just now? Could it be Abai had decided to find a place to hide its precious carrots later? You are the Sun Mengshu Magic Academy, one of the favorites to win the championship? Liliana's father suddenly became very excited. If our hotel once had such a big shot living in it, our business will definitely have a promising future. Thinking of this, Liliana's father was already drooling. Is there no more rooms? Sorry to disturb you. Let's go. Oh, how can there be no empty rooms when such a distinguished guest is here? But what's wrong? But it's a special time now. Although our hotel looks like this, there are actually many people staying in it. Now there are only 2 rooms left, Liliana's father said with some embarrassment. There are only 2 rooms. How can the 5 of us stay in them? Let's find some other places to try. Avina stood behind and said with dissatisfaction. 5 people in 2 rooms. Doesn't that mean? I think it's a very good choice to stay here. Natalia suddenly thought of something. I prefer to sleep in a big place, Reynolds said on the side. Even though she had already decided to sleep on Abai's body, she couldn't say it so bluntly. Who knew if Ai Wena, who was gluttonous and sleepy, would come over in the middle of the night to snatch Abai away? Lilith, what do you think? I'm fine with anything. There was no need to ask Gio. Anyway, the answer should be similar to, as long as Reynolds is willing, I can stay anywhere. It's a bit difficult to deal with. 2 random people, one who wanted to stay here, and the other who didn't want to stay here. The situation was 1-to-1. Well, if you can stay in our small hotel, we will completely waive all the accommodation and food fees. For free. Reynolds's eyes lit up when he heard this word. Ahem, we'll stay here. Therefore, under the temptation of free accommodation and food, Reynolds stayed in this hotel run by Liliana's father. When he came in before, he glanced in advance. The name of this hotel was Everyday Hotel. Chapter 654. As for the allocation of rooms, it was done by drawing lots. Considering that Renaud was a male, in order to take care of the remaining females, Renaud's room became a swinging location. What did that mean? In other words, Reynolds would stay in this room for one day and then go to another room to rest the next day. Teacher Reynolds can always stay in the same room as me. Natalia looked at Avina, who was in the same room as her. Avina was changing her clothes. After the battle with the dark demons, some of the flesh on her body had disappeared, but after a few days of hard work, Avina finally found it back. Ah, I feel a chill. Avina could clearly feel that Natalia was looking at her with an unfriendly gaze. Avina turned her head awkwardly. What's the matter? What the hell? Their rooms were opposite each other, separated by an aisle, and the arrangement of rooms was that Avina and Natalia were in one room, Lilith and Dove in the other, and Renaud in the other. 5 people and 1 rabbit hurriedly came to the dining room under Liliana's lead. The decoration of the dining room was very simple, but they could feel a trace of natural beauty from within. The ancient wooden table was painted with a layer of brown paint and decorated with brown. It looked like a large tree growing out of the ground. Several hemp ropes were tied under the ceiling in a crisscross pattern, and real branches and leaves were hung on them. Some special magic tools were used to add a floral fragrance. It felt like eating in the wild, and it whetted one's appetite. Why is the decoration of the other facilities so bad, but this dining room's decoration is put in a lot of effort? That's because my father said that a man must return to the primitive, and the wild is supreme. Ah! As Liliana spoke, she even imitated her father's expression and tone. She even shouted out that strange laughter. Brat, you're slandering your father again. Bang! Liliana's father walked out of the dining room and punched him in the head again. Liliana's father held a metal plate in his hand. There were many dishes on it, all of which he had made himself. I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Tang Skinny. I'm Tang Pongpong's father. Poof! The name. Avina. Avina almost burst out laughing when she heard the names of these 2 people, but she was choked back by Natalia in an instant. It's fine, it's fine. I'm used to it, ha ha ha. Tang Shopong placed the dishes on the table. There were a lot of things on the table. It was definitely not something that could be eaten by 5 people. If it's not enough, just ask me for more. I'm at the front desk. Well, okay. After a simple bite, they found that the dishes cooked by Tang Shopong were unexpectedly delicious. The appearance was already very good, but they really didn't expect the taste to be so special. Everyone quickly swept away all the food and even ordered a few more dishes. Of course, the main force of the battle was mainly focused on Reynolds and Avina. As everyone knew, people would feel very sleepy after dinner. Reynolds went back to his room early to sleep. Originally, Abai had already planned to go out at around 8 or 9 o'clock to see if there were any handsome guys on the street. Sigh, I've been hanging out with Reynolds and the others recently. I don't have time to have fun. Unfortunately, the plan was not as fast as the changes. Abai was directly pulled away by Reynolds to sleep on his bed. Woo woo woo, my handsome guy. Humph. Now that I've said this, is there anyone who wants to ask? Why does a rabbit like Abai like handsome guys? Phew, please don't question Abai. It is an emotional rabbit that has eaten golden carrot. You will never know what will happen after eating Reynolds's test product. At night, many people had already fallen asleep, but there were also many people who stuck to their posts and worked silently. The night in the city was not very cold. On the contrary, there was a little bit of warmth, which should be thanks to the fire dragon. The room of the representative team of the Mengshu Magic Academy was on the 3rd floor. After all, they were the last to arrive, so they didn't have the right to choose. The interior of the room was also very simple. When the door was opened, there was a window on the opposite side. On both sides of the window were 2 square beds with a bedside table in the middle. Next to the bed on the left was an adult-sized wardrobe. Through the window, one could see a small part of the night view of the city. There were many modern high-rise buildings, and occasionally, a flat building that looked a bit like a mushroom occupied a large part of the view. That was the building of the Magician Union. Generally, after graduating from the Magic Academy, students would join the Magician Union. The union would give out some high-paying tasks from time to time, and the magicians could use this to achieve their goal of making money. The night was hanging high in the sky, and the legendary Milky Way was so bright at this time. It carried the dreams of countless people, and it paved a road and a river, guiding people forward. The street was a little noisy, and the lights were waning. Red lanterns were hung high in every corner, and a candle was lit in each corner, emitting warm candlelight. It looked like a festival was going on. This was the tradition of the city. People were all preparing for the Eve Festival that would be held in 6 days. The Eve Festival was to celebrate the Holy Sword Dance and worship ceremony of the East Region preliminaries. Usually, the day was chosen the night before the competition, so people could release their stress as much as possible on this day. Some people asked the opposite sex they liked to confess under the tree, and many gamblers opened gambling houses to bet money for the teams they liked. Of course, these were things that people in the slums would never be able to do. Geez, this idiot is blocking my way. Pushing open the door of the room, Ivana and Natalia saw a white thing beside the wardrobe. It was wriggling rhythmically on the ground, and a person was lying on it. That's right, it was Reynolds. He had already fallen asleep. Natalia quietly walked to Abai's side, then stopped and quietly looked at Reynolds's innocent sleeping face. It was sleeping time now, so Reynolds no longer maintained the appearance of a fierce uncle, but changed back to his original appearance. Chapter 655. Her white hair was blown up and down by Abai's panting, her long eyelashes were gently pressed against her lower eyelids, and her body was constantly moving up and down with the rhythm of her breathing. So cute! Natalia's face turned red. I really don't understand how he can have such powerful strength. He clearly looks about the same age as us. This is teacher's secret. Natalia said it like a love-struck fool. Ivana seemed to have suddenly thought of something and pulled Natalia to the bedside and said softly, "Hey Natalia, what kind of person do you think our teacher Reynolds is? He always feels so mysterious and his strength is so strong. Now that you mention it, it seems to be true." Natalia thought for a while. Who cares? Anyway, wherever teacher Reynolds is, I will be there. Seems like you are really hopeless. After that, the two hurriedly went to bed. Just now, when they walked around the streets, there were so many people that they almost died. And so, until the next day, there were more and more people coming and going on the streets, and many of them were contestants who came to participate in the 7 schools competition. Reynolds woke up with a start. Originally, he had already dreamed that there was an incomparably huge chicken drumstick flying towards him, and he had already opened his mouth to welcome its arrival. Strange, what is this thing? Reynolds licked the chicken drumstick in his mouth and found that it was tasteless. He spat it out, turned over, and his consciousness fell into a blurry state again. Reynolds! A very ear-piercing sound like an explosion woke Reynolds up. What's wrong, earthquake? Reynolds hurriedly sat up and looked around in a daze. That's not right, I remember that I slept beside the cabinet yesterday. Reynolds found that his position was on the floor between 2 beds. Abai was gone, it probably threw him on the floor and went out to look for food. Reynolds saw Ivana on the bed looking at him from a condescending angle. She crossed her legs, and looking at her messy hair, she should have just woken up. What's wrong, what are you shouting for? You disturbed my sleep. Seeing that nothing happened, Reynolds went back to sleep. Bang! Ivana stood up from the bed, stepped on Reynolds's face with her right foot, and kept rubbing it. Are you crazy? I just fell asleep. Why did you suddenly get up and lick me? 5 small and dainty toes covered Reynolds's entire face, and a faint smell of sweat entered Reynolds's nose. Stop stepping. I was wrong. It was just a dream. Reynolds understood that he had been eating Avina's feet like a chicken drumstick until now. So disgusting. I want to vomit. What did you say? Do my feet make you want to puke? That's not what I meant. Avina's attacks became even more ferocious. Wait a minute, this feeling of being ravaged is quite satisfying. Reynolds seemed to have awakened something incredible. After the little commotion of waking up, everyone went downstairs to the cafeteria. Tang Shopong was best at cooking noodles, and this was also a delicacy that Reynolds often mentioned. Boss, give me 3 more servings of super invincible whirlwind noodles. Okay. Reynolds secretly glanced at Avina with some complaints. It's all your fault. Otherwise I could eat 3 more bowls. For these young people, as long as they didn't have any plans for the next day, the word morning didn't exist in their dictionary. When they woke up, it was already 11 or 12 o'clock. Combining breakfast and lunch together was the most classic combination. After finishing his meal, Reynolds walked out of the Daily Inn in satisfaction. He wandered around and saw what the human world had become. More than 100 years ago, after the demon race and the human race signed a truce agreement, the connection between the demon race and the human race was completely cut off. In order to gather information, they could only secretly send spies to various social classes. Although they could always receive information about the human world, it was still better to see it with their own eyes. Turning into an uncle again, Reynolds once again felt the difference between the central area and the slums. One could be said to be luxurious and debauched, while the other couldn't even solve the problem of food and clothing. Hey, that's... After passing through a few intersections, Reynolds saw a familiar figure standing outside the door of a shop, looking inside in a daze. Hey, Liliana. Brother Reynolds. Reynolds walked to Liliana's side and found that the shop she was looking at was actually a cake shop. Through the glass window, he could see that there were all kinds of cakes in the shop, including Black Forest cakes decorated with dark chocolate and white cream cakes tied with red ribbons. No wonder. Seeing Liliana's drooling face, Reynolds suddenly felt a little sad. In this world, there were many children like Chubby Boy who came from poor families, and it was difficult for them to eat delicious food. In addition, Chubby Boy's situation was quite good. After all, his father ran a hotel in the city. Although the income was not very high, at least he could solve the problem of food and clothing. However, what about those children whose parents didn't work? Thinking of that, Reynolds felt very sad. In this aspect, Reynolds's management of the demon race was very good. Take Karsa City, the capital of the demon race, as an example. Although there were different levels in the city, each superior was strict and selfless, and each subordinate worked hard to complete their own work. In fact, Reynolds didn't want to see these people working so hard. It was good for them to have a rest once in a while. However, the attribute of laziness had disappeared from their bodies. Chubby Boy, which one do you like? I'll buy it for you, okay? As soon as he heard that Reynolds was going to buy him a cake, little Fatty's eyes instantly emitted a kind of brilliant light, and the saliva in his mouth could not stop flowing down. Thank you, Brother Reynolds. Seeing Chubby Boy so happy, Reynolds felt warm in his heart. Chubby Boy was so considerate. When Chubby Boy raised his hand and was about to pull the door handle, the door of the cake shop was opened from the inside. Following that, a blond man in a white suit walked out. He really looked like a gentleman. Chapter 656. Reynolds softly muttered the man's name. Aya. Isn't this the teacher in charge of the Sun Dream Magic Academy's representative team, Mr. Satan Reynolds? Vasilit's tone was full of sarcasm. Why are you here? Are you kidding me? This shop is the property of my vassalate clan, why can't I be here? Reynolds secretly sensed the presence of trouble. Damn, whose child is this? Just now, Fatty wanted to open the door, but the door opened first. Under inertia, Fatty was careless and directly hugged Vassalate Feng's thigh. So disgusting. My pants. Vassalate Feng fiercely lifted his leg and Fatty flew out. Luckily, Reynolds reacted fast enough and caught him in his arms before he landed. Vassalate Feng found that his new pants were stained with the fat brat's saliva, and his temper immediately exploded. Men, catch this brat and bring him back to my mansion. Following that, two muscular men wearing vests walked out of the cake shop and walked towards Reynolds, wanting to take Fatty away from his arms. The two men grabbed Fatty's clothes, but they didn't expect that the man in front of them, who was much smaller than them, would actually grab their wrists and then flip them over. The two men spun in the air and fell to the ground after spinning 720 degrees in the air. My wrist. It seemed that the two men's wrists were already broken. Seeing Reynolds's strength, Vassalate Feng felt that it was a bit troublesome. At first, he only wanted to use this child to vent his dissatisfaction with Reynolds, but he didn't expect that Reynolds would actually make a move. One must know that a teacher in the Sun Dream Magic Academy was definitely not a softie, not to mention the person who led the team to participate in the 7 schools competition. Satan, I'm warning you, this child dirted my new pants. These are clothes that my Vassalate clan specially asked a master to make. How expensive are they? Look at this fat brat's poor appearance. He can only compensate me with his life. What are you going to compensate me for him? Vassalate Feng thought and found a legitimate reason to make things difficult for Reynolds. Name a price. Reynolds said domineeringly. 1,000 gold coins. Reynolds glanced at Vassalate Feng's robe. Although it looked nice and was made of top-notch materials, it was far from being worth 1,000 gold coins. This piece of clothing was worth at most 100 gold coins. She's still making things difficult for me. Just as Vassalate Feng Yang was feeling smug, Renaud suddenly asked him a question. If I give you 2,000 gold coins to help me kill a cripple, will you do it? 2,000 gold coins. 2,000 gold coins was equivalent to a day's worth of currency in Dingqing. One could only imagine how much money that was. Cripple? As long as it's from the slums, it's easy. It's not from the slums, but it's close. Renaud took out a small piece of magic gold worth 2,000 gold coins from his pocket and threw it into Vassalate Vaughn's hand. Demonic gold. Vassalate Feng's eyes suddenly shrank. He was secretly delighted. The value of such a piece of devil gold was hard to estimate. He's quite rich. Vassalate Feng rolled his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. At the same time, Reynolds was also smiling. No one knew what he was thinking. Who do you want to kill? I'll tell you in a few days. After saying goodbye to Vassalate Feng, Renaud found another cake shop and bought a cake for Fatty. Fatty chose a black forest cake with black hair all over it. There was a pole in the middle of the cake. Don't think too much about it. It was purely for decoration. The two found a bench in the park and sat down. For the poor among them, a luxurious thing like cake was really a delicacy in the world. After a brainstorming session about whether they should take the cake for themselves or bring it back to share, Renaud decided to buy another cake and bring it back for Natalia. Is it delicious, Fatty? Yes. After sending the cake back to the hotel, Renaud went somewhere to play again. Hey, Sister Gio, can I ask you a question? In the room, Avina asked weakly. In fact, Ai Waina had been thinking about the next question for a long time. If she opened her mouth about some things, then the relationship that she had built up all this time might be shattered. This might be a little inconvenient. Judging from the atmosphere, the tone, and the attitude, Gio could vaguely guess what Avina would ask. We have met before, right? What are you talking about? Didn't we just meet half a month ago? Stop lying. You're actually a demon, right? Shit. Jill felt like she was flying. Her brain, which she didn't use often, was spinning rapidly, trying to find the answer to this question. How is that possible? The demon race is a ferocious creature. How can I be a demon? Jill shrugged and denied in a playful tone. Stop lying to me. Unexpectedly, with a shout, AI Wena's emotions swelled to the extreme. A few drops of tears unconsciously flowed from her eyes. The huge teardrops flowed down the sides of her nose, past her mouth, and smashed onto the floor. Demons had very good hearing. The sound of the teardrops falling on the floor was like a dagger, making Gio's heart ache. Well, Gio didn't know what to say. Occasionally she thought of something, but didn't know how to say it. Hey, Sister Gio. 12 years ago, my parents were killed in Hope Village. At that time, I was so scared that I even thought of committing suicide on the way to escape. However, when I thought that there might be someone else in this world who loves and cares for me, I gave up on the idea. AI Wena stuttered, and Gio couldn't help but feel heartache. Later, when I was in danger, you showed up. I'll never forget your hair as hot as the sun. You gave me a second chance at life, and I've treated you as my biological sister ever since. I've been looking for you for so many years, and I've been looking for you ever since. Finally, I found you. Chapter 657. Liliana didn't dare to look straight into Avena's eyes, because she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to control herself from revealing her identity as a demon. Although you don't have the two sharp horns on your head, I will always be able to recognize your hair color and the look in your eyes. No matter whether you are a demon or not, I just want to ask you not to pretend that you don't know me. Woo woo. Finally, Avina said the words hidden in her heart, and she felt much more relaxed. She had never felt this way before. Pfft. In the next moment, Liliana walked up to Avina, who was crying, and held her in her arms. I'm sorry, I didn't take your feelings into consideration. It's just that. Liliana bit her lips. It's just that there are some things that I really can't say. It's been so hard on you all these years. Avina felt Liliana's warm hand on her head and kept rubbing it, just like how an older sister comforted her younger sister. If you want to cry, just cry it out. This sentence was like a bayonet that pierced deeply into Avina's heart. The grievances and troubles that she had suffered for so many years finally burst out like a flood that had been accumulating for a long time. Woo woo ah. Avina buried her head in Liliana's chest. At this moment, she was like a child, so spoiled and pure that people couldn't help but want to love her. The two of them hugged each other for a long time. At this moment, silence was better than words, and this state lasted for a long time. They would never know that there was a person behind the door who heard the whole process. Reynolds leaned against the wall of the aisle, holding the remaining cake in his left hand, supporting his whole body with his left leg upright, and his right leg was half bent. Only the tip of his foot maintained his balance. Humph! Reynolds shook his head. In this short period of time, he had thought a lot about the future, the fate of the demon race, and the survival of mankind. There was a window every few meters on the aisle. Looking through the window, there would always be a big moon above the laughing people, silently admiring them. The next morning, Natalia stretched herself as usual and got out of bed. But as soon as he put his feet down from the bed, he felt a familiar touch from the soles of his feet. He looked at the softness and sighs. Reynolds! Natalia guessed that it was Reynolds again, but this time it wasn't his face, but his stomach. Poof! Reynolds was so scared that he almost fainted. He was sitting and dreaming when his stomach was suddenly stepped on. Who could continue to ignore it and continue to sleep? What's wrong? What's wrong? Another earthquake? Natalia raised her sandbag-sized fist, wishing she could punch the person in front of her to death. Tell me, why are you sleeping in our room again? Weren't you supposed to sleep in Avina's room last night? Because I think the floor here is very comfortable. Reynolds said an excuse that even he couldn't believe. After what happened in their room last night, who would dare to go in and ruin the warm atmosphere? Do you believe that I will slap you to death? Wow! At the same time, Liliana gradually woke up from her sleep and yawned. Liliana secretly glanced at Avina's bed and found that she was still sleeping soundly. At this time, Avina curled up and hugged an extra pillow in her arms. Her exposed thighs made people's nosebleed. When the light reflected on them, they actually looked so smooth like unpolished jade. Her long black hair spread out on the bed like a waterfall. Avina's breathing was very soft. Her small mouth was slightly open, and there were breaths coming out from inside from time to time. She was like a cute kitten, and people were fascinated by her. Liliana found a square box decorated with a red ribbon on the bedside table, and there was a thin piece of paper under the box. Liliana picked up the paper, and it said, "Treat Avina well in the future. You did a good job. I give you a thumbs up." There was no need to think about anything else. Judging from the ugly, crooked handwriting, it was obvious that it was Reynolds's handwriting. Liliana smiled. Originally, she didn't know how to explain to the devil about Avina, but now everything was solved. Goo goo came from her stomach, as if it was conveying some dissatisfaction to her master. It's 9 o'clock now. Liliana sat up on the bed and removed the outer shell of the square box in a few moves. Inside was the cake that Reynolds brought back yesterday. However, the cake seemed to be a little damaged at this time. The cake that was originally the size of 3 faceplates was now less than the size of 3 fingers. Moreover, a lot of the cream on top had been wiped off. I have no choice. Who asked you to work so hard last night? I can only eat the only cake I have," Reynolds said in the cafeteria while eating the delicious food that Tang Shopong just made. In the next few days, nothing worth mentioning happened. Just like that, the day of the Eve sacrifice arrived. "Reynolds, I heard that there will be a fireworks show in the central square tonight. Let's go watch it." "Yes, Mr. Reynolds, let's go and play together." Early in the morning, Liliana had been pestering Reynolds for the whole morning. They knew that if they didn't mention it, Reynolds would definitely not go to watch the fireworks by himself. "I don't really want to go. Speaking of which, the 7 schools competition is starting tomorrow. Don't you plan to adjust your mood and actively prepare for the competition?" "We're already prepared. Just treat it as accompanying us to relax. Go." Liliana grabbed Reynolds's arm and kept shaking it, and there was a very pitiful look in her eyes. This was the look that Reynolds couldn't stand the most. "Sigh, I really lose to you." Reynolds admitted defeat helplessly. "I got it." In the evening, everyone changed their clothes in Natalia's room in advance and prepared to set off. Reynolds sat on the bed and glanced around, and found that the scene was really a feast for the eyes. Chapter 658. Natalia found a white dress with lace and put it on. Her long blonde hair was draped over her shoulders. She seemed to be very unaccustomed to this style of dress. Her face had a faint blush, which made her look very pure. Reynolds's impression of Natalia was instantly subverted. For the first time, she found a large white shirt and put it on. Her trousers were the kind of trousers that looked brownish-red due to the faded color. Then, she tied a straw hat that could be seen everywhere. Even if it was thrown on the side of the road, no one would pick it up. She looked very poor, but coupled with her curvaceous figure and delicate face, the contrast made people feel uncomfortable. "Quick, type with both hands to prove your innocence." It was said that Liliana had chosen Avina's clothes for her, and Renaud had never doubted Liliana's sense of beauty. Avina wore a black cheongsam with a golden dragon printed on the back. Every scale on the dragon was clearly visible, extending all the way to Avina's abdomen. Because of the tight-fitting effect of the cheongsam, Avina's originally not very obvious figure suddenly bloomed. Although there were still some parts that had yet to develop, it was definitely one of the top ones. Sigh, I didn't expect Avina to be so good. Reynolds thought secretly in his heart. Usually, Avina never cared about her appearance. Except for some necessary washing and brushing, it seemed that she never did anything to take care of her skin. On this point, Reynolds was quite surprised. Next, it was Liliana's turn. In order to cope with the lively atmosphere of the Eve Festival, Liliana specially found someone to send a very suitable dress from home. The dress was a bright and dazzling red dress with a thin white cloak on the outside. It matched with white boots of the same color. With a little light makeup, the black hair and red dress on Hua Kai's body reached a perfect balance. The two extreme colors seemed to be much gentler under the balance of white. Hua Kai's face was blushing. Her fingertips kept playing with the hem of the dress. Her eyes were somewhat shy and deliberately avoided Reynolds's gaze. It seemed that she had no confidence in her appearance. Very beautiful, Hua Kai. Reynolds gave her a thumbs up. Hearing Reynolds's praise, Hua Kai's face suddenly turned red. The blush on her face refused to dissipate. After Reynolds's praise, Hua Kai even covered her face with both hands. By the way, why are you wearing this? Are you going to participate in the Eve Festival like this? Avina stood up and said in a very dissatisfied tone. And? What's wrong with me wearing this? Reynolds glanced at the school uniform he was wearing in the form of an uncle, and was very surprised. Hey, today is the Eve Festival of Dingxing City, which is held once every 10 years. You should cooperate with us a little. I can't show my real appearance to others. I've already prepared for this. On the eve of the Eve Festival, people of noble status would wear different clothes to participate in the gathering. The streets of Dingxing City were full of red lanterns, and all kinds of shouting could be heard. Small snack stalls were operating on both sides of the road. At 12 o'clock sharp, there would be a magic fireworks show. After the fireworks show, many people would leave because they had the extremely important competition of the 7 schools the next day. Some people would stay and snuggle up to each other to confess their love. Therefore, the Eve Festival was also regarded as a sacred festival for young people to fall in love. At this moment, Reynolds and the others were walking on the street that led to the central square. Why do I have to do this kind of thing? It's so shameful, so shameful. The people on the street were laughing and chatting. There were local tycoons, political tycoons, and noble magicians. With good wine in their hands, they were talking about the wonderful things they had done recently. Suddenly, they seemed to see a few fairies in front of them, and their eyes were fixed on them. Hey, look over there! Damn, I've never seen such beautiful women. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oh my God, there are 5 fairies. Wait a second. 5? Including Avina, Hua Kai, Liliana, and Alice, there are only 4 of them. Who is the last one? I told you I didn't want to come. Walking at the front was a young girl with short white hair. She was wearing a white bathrobe with a gray pattern. Her body shape was indistinguishable, and her face was covered with a mask of the god of wealth. It was impossible to see the girl's appearance. However, the nobles who had seen countless women could tell the girl's gender just by her temperament and slight body fragrance. Since she can wear a mask, there must be a secret. Some of the nobles had already made their own plans. That's right, it was Reynolds. Under the coercion of the crowd, he had no choice but to change into this costume. Tsk, so shameful. Reynolds glared fiercely at Liliana, who was walking behind him on the left through the eye holes of the mask. She had prepared this costume in advance. Why do you have this kind of thing? As the most loyal servant of His Majesty the Demon King, I will prepare everything necessary for His Majesty. As he walked, Reynolds saw a group of people gathered not far ahead. They were gathered in a circle, looking at something with a gloating expression. The physical fitness of the demons was very good. Reynolds could clearly hear the sounds of beating and cursing, as well as the muffled sounds of being beaten. Reynolds hurriedly walked to the front and squeezed into the crowd. He found that in the center of the crowd, there was a knight in heavy armor who kept trampling on a little boy in ragged clothes. The little boy's hair was messy, and the corners of his mouth were stained with traces of blood. He was wearing clothes made of linen, but under the ravaging of the knight in heavy armor, they were almost torn into strips of cloth. The little boy's arms were crossed in front of his chest, and he used all his strength to hold a steaming sweet potato in his arms. The knight in heavy armor raised his right foot high, and then stomped on it fiercely repeatedly. Each stomp caused the boy by his foot to feel intense pain, but the boy didn't even cry out for mercy. The confused boy opened his eyes, which were so clear and full of determination. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.